Hello everyone, welcome to What If Luffy Reincarnates in the World of Naruto Part 1. Before we start, please go support Javier Ramirez 042 for writing that awesome fanfic. Now let's begin. This is the translated version I made. There will be some wrong he or she calling here because it's translated, so let me clear this. Luffy is a male in this story. Clarifications. Number 1. This story will be like the other crossovers. Luffy goes to Naruto's world and takes his place. This will be every crossover I do for Luffy. Number 2. The Mugiwaras would be there since he became a genin, so they would live all his adventures. If you want someone else with them, put them in the comments. Number 3. Obviously it will be a harem, and they can put whoever they want from the world of Naruto in Luffy's harem. Number 4. Luffy will have the Kyuubi since it will be necessary for him to have it. Number 5. If you want any jutsu or Kekkei Genkai for Luffy, put it in the comments. Number 6. Say what techniques the Mugiwaras should have. Prologue. The story begins in Laugh Tale, in the final battle between the Luffy pirates and the Blackbeard pirates. All of Blackbeard's captains had fallen to the Mugiwaras, and they were watching the titanic battle between the two Yonkas for the supreme title. After an epic battle, both attacked each other with their awakenings and using all their power. Mugiwara Blackbeard shouted angrily. Kurohige Luffy shouted with anger. They both collided with great power, one with the power of the Gurugura and the other with the King's Haki. The crash caused a huge explosion that covered the entire island, and the rest was no longer known. It was only known throughout the world that the two most powerful crews had died. In a Shinobi world, a certain red-haired woman gave birth to a child with black hair with red and blonde streaks. They did not understand how it was possible when a man appeared to them and said, "Do not be afraid, that child is your son, only he is also a young man who lived in another world, and when he died, I made him reborn into your family." The woman named Kushina looked at her son tenderly and said, "Then, he is welcome in our family and in our life." What was it called there? Monkey D. Luffy, a very important survivor of the D clan, the man responded with a smile. The father named Minato looked at his wife and said, "Then, we will call him Luffy Uzumaki Namikaze, our son." But after that, a masked man appeared to release the Kyuubi inside Kushina, and Minato had to seal the beast inside Luffy to save everyone, although he died along with his wife. And so, Monkey D. Luffy died in the pirate world, and Luffy Uzumaki was born in the Shinobi world. 12 years later. We find ourselves in the village of Konoha, a peaceful and quiet village. Well, that is until one of the typical jokes of a certain boy with tricolor hair is shown. Swelling. Their laughter could be heard at the Hokage monument, in which the stone faces showed an artistic change. Hokage-sama shouted to a shinobi entering Hokage Hiruzen's office. "What's going on? Is Luffy causing trouble again?" The sensei asked, stopping what he was doing. "Yes, he is painting the faces of the Hokages, and now it is with paint," said the two shinobis upset. The sensei let out a sigh and putting on the Hokage hat, he went with the others to see what Luffy did. Already at the top of the Hokage tower, everyone saw what the rogue had done. "Hey, stop causing problems. Stop doing that. You're going to pay for this. Look what he has done." Those were the cries of the shinobi atop the Hokage tower in response to what they saw. "Shut up you idiots, none of you would be able to do this, but I can, I'm amazing," a boy shouted at them with a big smile. He had hair of 3 colors. Black, blonde and red, he wore mustache masks on his cheeks, orange clothes and green glasses. "What have you done this time, idiot?" "Hokage-sama, I apologize for this," he said to a chunin with a scar on his face. "Oh, Iruka," said the sensei looking at him. Iruka took a breath and let out a powerful scream. "What the hell do you do during class hours? Get down here, idiot." "Oh no, it's Iruka-sensei," Luffy said in fear. A little while later, Ninja Academy. Iruka was in the living room in front of a tied-up Luffy with an annoyed face. "Tomorrow is the Ninja Academy graduation exam, and you have already failed twice, Luffy. This is not the time to cause problems," idiot Iruka said furiously. "Whatever you say," was the only thing Luffy said. Iruka looked at him with a twitch on his forehead and shouted. "We will do a transformation jutsu exam, everyone online, they will transform perfectly into me." "What?" everyone shouted. Moments later, the transformation exam was performed. "Okay, fine. Next, Luffy Uzumaki," Iruka said as she evaluated. "It's all your fault," said one of the students, looking at Luffy. "Like I didn't give a damn," Luffy said as he went to the place. "Man, this sucks. Well, here I go," thought Luffy, getting ready with a smile. "Transformation jutsu," he shouted, performing the signs. Immediately, a girl with tricolor hair and 2 pigtails and naked with smoke almost covering the most important thing appeared, blowing a kiss to Iruka. The teacher was thrown back by a nosebleed, and Luffy returned to normal as he laughed. "Shishishi, I call this my Hexi Jutsu, ha 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 ha," he fell flat, he laughed heartily. Don't invent such stupid techniques, Iruka scolded him, doing his famous giant head justice. Moments later. Luffy was at the Hokage monument, cleaning up everything he did under Iruka's watch. I won't let you leave until you leave everything as it was, the teacher said seriously. As if I cared. Besides, I don't have anyone to wait for me at home, Luffy shouted angrily. Iruka looked at him with some pity and then said. Luffy. Hey? The boy asked him with a bad face. Well, if you leave everything clean I'll take you to eat beef ramen tonight, Iruka told him, pinching his nose. Looking down, he saw Luffy looking at him with stars in his eyes and saying enthusiastically. Okay, I'm going to work as hard as I can. At night, Ichiraku restaurant. Luffy and his teacher were enjoying a good beef ramen when Iruka spoke. Luffy, why did you do that to the Hokage's faces? Do you know who they were? Asked the serious one. Of course I know. Basically, those who get the title of Hokage are the strongest ninjas in this village, right? And among them is the fourth Hokage, the hero who saved this village from the nine-tailed fox. Luffy answered while he tied. So, why? Iruka asked, trying to know the reason for his actions that morning. One day I will obtain the title of Hokage, then I will surpass all the previous Hokages and thus make the village recognize my strength, Luffy declared with determination and will. Iruka looked at him surprised by his words when Luffy said. Iruka-sensei, I have to ask you something. Do you want another bowl of ramen? Iruka asked with a smile. No. Can I borrow your forehead protector? Luffy asked with a foxy smile. Oh, this? No, you get this after you graduate. It's a symbol that you've graduated, maybe you can get one tomorrow, Iruka said, playing his ninja band. What a bummer, Luffy shouted angrily. So that's why you took off your glasses? Iruka asked, amused. I want another bowl, Luffy shouted. Hey? Iruka shouted scared. The next day, Ninja Academy. Luffy was in the room to take the graduation exam and Iruka was giving the instructions. To graduate they will have to do a shadow clone jutsu. When they call you, go to the next room, the teacher informed. Oh no, not that. Damn, that's my worst technique, thought Luffy scared. When it was his turn, Luffy stood in front of the two instructors and looked determined. I will, look at this, he thought, making the signs. Shadow clone jutsu, Luffy shouted, channeling a lot of chakra. However, the only thing that came out was an emaciated copy of him on the ground and Luffy saw how Iruka looked at him furiously and then shouted. Suspend. While Luffy suffered from that word, the other teacher spoke to Iruka. Iruka, it's his third time and he can now create a clone. We could approve it, said the sky blue-haired instructor. Luffy put on a hopeful smile but left when he heard Iruka say. No way. All the other students can create 2 clones and Luffy only creates 1 useless clone. I can't approve it. Luffy just looked at him indignantly and walked away. After school. Luffy was on the academy swing watching all his classmates being congratulated by their parents with a sad face. He left the place in anger and began to walk through the streets when he was stopped by the blue-haired teacher. Izuki-sensei, Luffy said surprised. They both went to a building and started talking. Iruka-sensei is a serious person, his parents were murdered when he was young and he had to take care of himself. Mizuki told Luffy. But why do you take it out on me? Asked the annoyed one. Mizuki looked at him with a smile and said. He probably sees himself in you. He's probably thinking that he wants you to get really strong. He tries to understand Iruka's feelings about her, you do and apostrophe T have family either. Luffy looked down and said. But I wanted to pass. Mizuki looked at him with a gleam in her eyes and said. In that case, I'm going to tell you a special secret. Luffy saw him surprised by those words. At night. Luffy was moving through the Sandame's residence as quietly as possible when he heard his voice behind him. What are you doing at this time in my house? Asked the Sandame seriously. Luffy could only use one resource at that time. Exi Jutsu, he shouted, activating the jutsu. After the Sandame fell to the ground with a lot of blood coming from his nose, Luffy searched the Hokage's office until he found what he was looking for. I found it, he said with a foxy smile. Outside the building, Mizuki watched him flee with an evil smile. Forest of Death. Luffy looked at the scroll he stole with interest. Let's see, is the first jutsu the multi-clone shadow jutsu? But why does this start with what I'm worst at? Luffy shouted furiously. Meanwhile. Iruka remembered how he lost his parents in the Kyuubi attack when he heard a knock on his door and when he opened it, he could see that it was Mizuki. What's wrong? Iruka asked. We must go to Hokage-sama. Luffy has taken the scroll of forbidden techniques and it with him, Mizuki told him upset. How? Iruka shouted without believing it. Chapter 1. A Truth and Reunion. After the Hokage sent the shinobi to look for Luffy, Iruka appeared before him angrily. I found you, he said with a furious smile. Luffy looked at him with a smile and pointing at him, shouted. Hey, I found the pervert. Idiot, I found you, Iruka shouted with his giant head jutsu. But even so, Luffy kept smiling, and Iruka noticed that. Ahaha, you found me. I have only learned one jutsu. Luffy said happily. You're all bruised, what were you doing here? Iruka asked worriedly. Doesn't matter. I'm going to try to do an amazing jutsu if I can do it, let me graduate, Luffy told him with emotion. Iruka looked at him surprised and thought. Have you practiced so much in this place that you have damaged yourself like this? Luffy, where did you get that scroll? I have asked seriously. Oh, this. Mizuki sensei told me about him and also about this place. He said that if he showed you this technique I would be able to graduate, Luffy responded, showing the scroll. Mizuki? Iruka thought worried. But he felt something coming towards them, and Luffy pushed out of the way to receive a shower of kunai to the body. At that moment, Mizuki appeared and said. Good job finding the idiot. I see, so this is happening, Iruka said hurt. Luffy looked at them confused when Mizuki yelled at him. Luffy, give me the scroll. That. What's going on here? Luffy shouted, looking at them both. Luffy, no matter what, don't give him the scroll, Iruka shouted very seriously. It's a dangerous scroll that is forbidden techniques inside. Mizuki used you to get his hands on it. Luffy looked at Mizuki in shock and he just smiled as he said. Luffy, you don't need to act like this. I will tell you the truth. Iruka upon hearing this, yelled at him to try to stop him. Don't do it. However, Mizuki ignored him and continued with his speech. 12 years ago you know about the demon fox that was sealed, right? Luffy looked at him with wide eyes as he continued listening to the trader. From that day, a special rule was created in this village. But that rule could not be revealed to you. Continued the damn trader with an evil smile. What is that, Norm? Tell me what kind of rule? Luffy shouted upset. Unknown to them, 10 people were watching the hidden conversation. The rule is that no one can talk about the fact that you are the 9-tailed demon fox, Mizuki revealed with pure malice. What do you mean? Luffy asked without believing it. Stop, Iruka shouted, trying to avoid the worst. You are the 9-tailed demon fox. This means that you are the one who killed Iruka's parents and destroyed the village. You were sealed by the Hokage you admire so much, and Mizuki continued. Stop, Iruka shouted again. You were deceived by the whole world, didn't you find it strange that everyone hates you? Iruka is the same, he hates you too, Mizuki concluded, preparing a few shuriken to throw. Luffy was conflicted, Iruka was cursing himself for what was happening, and Mizuki was laughing evilly until applause was heard in the area. Bravo, I didn't think there was a person so stupid as to reveal an S-class secret to the one who should least be revealed, said a shinobi with a jounin vest and 2-color hair. Black and white. Behind him, 9 people, mostly weirdos, stepped out of the shadows and glared at Mizuki. Pioneers? Mizuki asked furiously. Night Darkness-sama, what are you doing here? Iruka asked in shock. Knight just formed a hand pose and said. Continuing what I started 12 years ago. Release. When he said that word, some kind of seal appeared on Luffy's forehead and then disappeared again. Instantly, a column of chakra surrounded Luffy, surprising everyone, and when the column disappeared, before them was a new Luffy. He still had his tricolor hair and mustache markings, but now he had slightly longer hair, was taller, and became more muscular. His clothes had been torn, exposing his chest where you could see a large X-shaped scar. Everyone looked at him in shock, and Luffy himself looked around saying. What a trip I had after that fight. I didn't imagine being reborn in a ninja world after fighting Blackbeard, although I'm not complaining. Then he saw the 9 people behind Knight and shouted. Eyes. Luffy, they shouted, throwing themselves into his arms. Iruka saw them between confused and happy, so he asked. Knight-sama, what is happening? Who are they and how does Luffy look so different? Oh, I'll explain that later, Knight said with a smile. Luffy looked at the 9 with a big smile and said. I'm happy to have my nakamas here. That's right, the Mugiwaras stood before their captain with great joy. We're glad to see you alive too, Luffy. Zoro said with a smile. And look at you, you look handsome with those hair colors, Nami said with a flirtatious smile. Fufu and those marks are very cute, Robin said with fun and wanting to caress them. Come on guys, I'm still the same, Luffy said a little nervously. Yes, but now you have extra things. Sanji said with some envy seeing how Luffy was now. Everyone was laughing at the meeting, but everything was interrupted by the scream of one person. But what's wrong with you? He is the 9-tailed fox, they're talking to a demon, Mizuki shouted angrily. But lightning struck him before him and he saw how Nami looked at him with anger. Don't you dare call him a demon again, he is the purest person that can exist, she shouted angrily. He may be childish and cause trouble, but he has the heart of a true leader. Said Zoro with his sword unsheathed. He may be a glutton and have no manners, but he is capable of fighting the world for his nakamas. Sanji said with a look of death and grabbing his leg from him. Maybe he will lead you to death with his madness, but anyone can feel safe because of his great power and because he does not stop to protect those he cares about," said Usopp pointing at him. "He will look like a bad captain in the eyes of our world, but no one can be like him," said Robin, looking at him in a demonic way. "It's true," said the others. "This is Monkey D. Luffy," everyone shouted at the same time. Luffy was crying at those words, and a certain Hokage was smiling when he saw this in his crystal ball. "You guys are crazy," Mizuki shouted angrily, but he looked at Iruka and smiled. "Then I will finish off your pathetic teacher, Fox." He threw the Fuma Shuriken in the direction of Iruka, but this was stopped by Luffy's hand, which was covered in something black, and Luffy with a dark voice. "If you dare to lay a hand on my sensei, I will kick your ass." "Luffy," Iruka said surprised. "Ahahaha, I'll kill someone like you with one hit," Mizuki shouted confidently. "Try it, trash, I'll hit you back 1,000-fold," Luffy said, making a cross with his fingers. "Then do it, nine-tailed fox," Mizuki shouted, already fed up. Iruka couldn't believe what was happening, and the Mugiwara saw the same with their mouths open. "Shadow multi-clone jutsu," Luffy shouted. Instantly, a huge amount of Luffys appeared all over the place. "What the hell? It's one thing to deal with just one Luffy, but dealing with 1,000 is the worst nightmare for us," Usopp shouted excitedly. "That's a lot of bottomless barrels to feed, may heaven have mercy on my kitchen," Sanji said with some sweat. "That guy is toast, if a single Luffy is enough to defeat Yonko, 1,000 can against the four together," Zoro said with a big smile. "Fufu, but that can also be used in something else," Robin said mischievously. "You're right, Robin, imagine the possibilities of 1,000 Luffys in bed," Nami said, imagining herself surrounded by 1,000 naked Luffys. "What is happening?" Mizuki shouted scared. "It is multiplied by more than 1,000, each one in full length, they are not illusions. Maybe I can surpass the previous Hokages," Iruka said with a smile. The Mugiwara smiled upon hearing his explanation of her, and Luffy prepared the sentence. "Are you ready, damn? Because I will show you my true power once I get it back. Charge on, guys, Gomu Gomu no pistol," he shouted, extending his arm. All the clones did the same, and the next moment there was a crushed Mizuki on the ground. "Shishishi, I was a bit over the top," Luffy said with a smile. "I have deserved it," Nami said, grabbing Luffy's arm. Iruka saw them with a smile and said. "I see that you have precious people for you, Luffy." "That's right, they are very precious to me, and I will not let them be separated from me," Luffy said with his usual smile. The Mugiwara smiled and Iruka looked at Knight seriously. "Knight-sama, can you tell me everything about what's happening?" I have asked seriously. Knight sighed and said. "The Hokage will tell you about its history, Luffy's arrival and what I did that night. For now you should know that they were trained by me in the ninja arts and will be genin alongside Luffy. Oh, and they will be on Luffy's team with the other two members." Iruka nodded and looking at Luffy, said. "Luffy, eat here. I want to give you something. Meanwhile. Has anyone found it?" "No. Fuck, that's bad. I could be far away now." It was what the shinobi who were looking for Luffy said. "There is nothing to worry about," said the Sandaime, appearing before them. "Hokage-sama?" asked one of them. "He'll be back soon," was the only thing the Sandaime said with a smile. "Back in the woods. Already, sensei?" Luffy asked with his eyes closed. "Yes, you can open your eyes now," Iruka said. Luffy opened them to find his sensei smiling at him, but without his ninja band. "Congratulations on graduating," Iruka said happily. Luffy touched his forehead and felt metal on it, so he looked at Iruka with tears. "Let's celebrate, I'll treat you all to a cup of ramen," Iruka said happily. At that moment, Luffy rushed towards Iruka to hug him before the smiles of all his nakamas. Then, Nami approached and said. "However, you still won't be complete without this." Seeing her, Luffy could see her handing him his beloved straw hat. He took it and put it on him, he said to him. "Thanks, Nami, I knew my hat wasn't in danger if you had it." Nami blushed a little and said. "I would never let the treasure of the man I love suffer damage." And in an instant, she gave him a loving kiss on the lips in front of everyone, much to Sanji's dismay. After the kiss, Luffy looked at her surprised for a moment but then gave a foxy smile and said. "It seems like I had my pirate queen all the time." Nami smiled at him and, hugging him, said. "That's right, and as your queen, I will support you on your journey." Luffy laughed at that and said. "Shishishi, then join me on my new journey to become the Hokage." "Yes," everyone shouted. Chapter 2. Konohamaru. In the Leaf Village, a young man is about to start a new life as a ninja. "Smile," said the cameraman about to take the photo. The flash went off on Luffy, who was smiling but looked a little upset. Later. The Sandaime looked at the photos of Luffy and the Mugiwaras in the Shinobi registry. "It's a good photo, but I notice you're a little upset," said the Hokage, looking at him. How could I not be? I had a great idea for the photo, but they wouldn't let me do it, Luffy grew red from his chair. Of course I wasn't going to let you do that nonsense. Nami yelled, hitting him. The Sandaime smiled when he saw that, but he felt a presence outside. Suddenly, a boy with a long scarf came in with a shuriken and shouting. Fight me, old man. Everyone saw him fall to the ground with a drop of sweat. When will this end? The Sandaime thought with a sigh. Then a man with glasses appeared and looked at the boy worriedly. Who set that trap? Said the angry boy. Are you okay? And there is no trap, said the man, adjusting his glasses. Who is this dwarf? All the Mugiwaras asked themselves. The boy looked at Luffy angrily, as did the man, who thought. The nine-tailed brat. How I hate him. I know, you're the one who set the trap, the boy shouted at Luffy. You tripped, idiot, Luffy, and Nami yelled at him, grabbing him by the scarf. You too, let go, he is the Hokage's grandson, the man shouted, pointing at the Sandaime. Everyone looked at him with blank eyes, and the boy shouted at them. Come on, hit me. Now that they know who I am, they won't dare hit me. They are the same as Ibisu and the others. Thought the boy with an arrogant smile. But he never expected that they would both hit him and shout. We do an apostrophe T give a damn if she is your grandmother, do you really think she would stay like this? It can't be, Ibisu shouted without being able to believe it. The Sandaime just looked at everything thoughtfully. Moments later, streets of Konoha. The Mugiwaras walked the streets, wearing their new shinobi outfits. It was lucky to get ninja clothes for everyone. Said Luffy, wearing a red Anbu vest with a Uzumaki symbol and orange, blue pants, good shinobi gear, and his usual straw hat hanging around his neck. At least we got everything at a good price, said Nami, wearing a very seductive Kunoichi outfit and a Konoha band on her arm. Conan's outfit without the cape. The others dressed according to their style. Zoro wore a haramaki as always, Sanji went for a gentleman's outfit wearing how he dressed like Shikamaru, Usopp wore a hood like Kiba, Robin went more for a more casual style. Her like Ino and Shippuden, and the others in their own style. However, Luffy could sense that they were being followed by someone and shouted. Stop following us once and for all, you're not fooling anyone with that. The follower was hiding quite badly and found himself revealing that he was the boy from before. Hahaha, impressive. You've seen through my disguise, it seems the rumors about you are true. From now on you will be my boss, he said with a smile. Hey? Luffy asked with his eyes rolled back. Congratulations, Captain, you have gotten a brat as a subordinate, Zoro said between laughs. Shut up, Luffy yelled, annoyed. In exchange for that, please show me the Hexijutsu with which you defeated the old man, the boy begged. Hexijutsu? Nami asked suspiciously. Don't think badly of me, I'm not a pervert like Sanji. The Hexijutsu is created precisely against those perverts. It's the best weapon against them, Luffy explained with a foxy smile. Inside, a certain being smiled in the same way, thinking that the brat was worth it. That's why I need to learn it, please, boss, the boy pleaded with puppy dog eyes. Okay, but stop calling me boss, said Luffy, somewhat annoyed. Later. To teach the boy, Luffy had to use the Hexijutsu in front of everyone so they would know what it was like. It must be said that she got whistles from several men, compliments from the girls for her beauty, a request from Brook to see her panties, which earned her a kick from Nami and Lazy Luffy, the female version, and of course, a huge nosebleed from Sanji. When he dispelled the jutsu, he said to the boy. Okay, the most basic is Bon Kaiu Bon. Do you have it? Now try it. What kind of explanation is that? His nakamas asked themselves with a drop of sweat. Yes, boss Hen, shouted the boy in position. What appeared before them was an ugly fat woman in a bikini. No, Luffy and Sanji shouted. This is horrible, you stain women's pride, Sanji shouted angrily. You must make her thinner, Luffy shouted. And more beautiful, Sanji shouted with pure seriousness. It's funny to see how those two come together on this kind of thing, Robin said amused. The others agreed in agreement with her words. Later. By the way, why do you go after your grandfather all the time? Nami asked, interested. The boy looked at the ground angrily and said. My grandfather's name is Konohamaru, my name is what the village calls me. Even if they know my name, no one calls me that. When someone talks about me or calls me, the only thing they see is the Hokage's grandson. No one sees me for who I am, I'm sick of that. That's why I want the title of Hokage. Everyone looked at him in surprise, while Luffy and Nami had their own thoughts. Luffy wondered if the same thing would have happened to Ace if his father was alive, if they would call him the son of the Pirate King, and he would have lived with hatred for it. Nami thought similarly, but in the future, she wondered if her children with Luffy would feel the same about being children of the Pirate King. Idiot, who would recognize a brat like you? The title of Hokage is not something that a brat can just get, Luffy said suddenly. Hey? Konohamaru asked angrily. It's not a child's game, stupid Hokage, if you want that title, then Luffy continued seriously. Then what? Konohamaru asked, still angry. Everyone looked waiting for Luffy's response, which came like a challenge. Then you must defeat me first, Luffy said with a big foxy smile. Konohamaru looked at him with admiration and respect for those words, as did the others, when they heard a voice above them. I found them. Everyone looked to find Ibisu staring at them, more specifically Luffy. The demon child, Ibisu thought, looking at him coldly. Hey, why are you looking at Luffy like that? Nami shouted furiously. But Ibisu did not pay attention to him and came down from the tree well saying. Now young master, let's go home. No, I'm going to defeat the old man and obtain the title of Hokage, don't get in my way, Konohamaru shouted furiously. The Hokage must be very well prepared in all aspects of a ninja. You must master more than 1,000 techniques and finally Ibisu tried to explain. But Konohamaru was already in position and shouted. Hang, take this, Hexi Jutsu. Before them was a beautiful girl without any clothes. Very well done, my dear apprentice, Anji shouted with his thumb up and covering his nose. Wasn't he Luffy's apprentice? Zoro asked, opening his eyes from his nap. Konohamaru returned to normal when he saw that Ibisu was still the same and said. It hasn't worked. What a perverted jutsu, I'm a knight, what a nasty jutsu, it won't work on me, Ibisu shouted furiously. He is strong, had no nosebleed and maintains his composure. It takes something more shocking for it to fall, Sanji said seriously. At this moment, everyone heard Luffy's voice. The judgment of the Cage Bunshin. Instantly, many Luffys appeared in the area before everyone. Wow, incredible, Konohamaru shouted with excitement. What an idiot. I am an elite jounin. I'm not like that weak Mizuki, Ibisu said, preparing himself. At that moment, all the Luffys made the same hand sign and shouted. Pang. The next moment, before everyone was every man's dream. A large number of naked girls around. This caused two men to be thrown with massive nosebleeds, one further than the other. I call this the harem jutsu. Luffy said, returning to normal. Ahahahaha, certainly the best weapon against perverts, it's a deadly technique against that type of men, hahaha. Nami laughed uncontrollably. In the Hokage's office. The Sandaime had the same opinion. Certainly that girl is absolutely right, it is a deadly technique for men of that type, he said, looking at his crystal ball. Back in the woods. That was impressive, boss, you have defeated my master, Konohamaru shouted with great admiration. Behind them, a certain blonde-haired man crawled back with a bloody nose. Are you okay, Sanji? Usopp asked worriedly. I've seen the sky, beautiful naked maidens like angels falling from heaven, Sanji said with a silly smile. Everyone looked at him badly for those words and continued watching Luffy and Konohamaru's conversation. I want a name that people recognize me by, and yet Konohamaru said. But Luffy hit him on the head while saying. It's not that easy, silly. The title of Hokage, the title of the greatest ninja in the village. With all the bad things that have happened to me, I almost lost myself. But I found people who recognized me. So all of that was incredibly difficult. And that's why it's better that you prepare. Prepare for what? Konohamaru asked confused. If you want a title as incredible as Hokage, with which everyone recognizes you, there are no shortcuts, Luffy told him with his classic smile. Konohamaru looked at him surprised and remembered his previous words from him. If you want to be Hokage, you must first defeat me. Remembering that, he turned around and said angrily. Stop preaching like if you knew everything. I won't let you be my boss anymore, from now on we will be rivals. The Mugiwaras watched with a smile as they both smiled at each other because of their new rivalry, and Nami had tears in her eyes. Then, Luffy told him. Sorry, tomorrow my ninja path begins. But one day I will fight you for the title of Hokage, I look forward to it, Konohamaru. But that said, he retreated with his nakamas while giving the boy a thumbs up. It was very beautiful what you did for him, Luffy. Nami said, hugging his arm from her. That brat will be strong in the future, Zoro said with a smile. I think so, he can reach Luffy's level if he trains, said Sanji, smoking. Shishishi, I know that Konohamaru will become very strong and we will fight for the title of Hokage. Luffy said with his usual smile. Meanwhile, the Sandaime watched this with a smile. Chapter 3. Sasuke and Sakura, friends or enemies? It was a new day in the Konoha village and in the Uzumaki compound, Luffy was getting out of bed. The Sandaime had explained to him and his nakamas who his parents were in that world and how they died. For this reason, he gave him the Uzumaki compound so that everyone could live comfortably. He looked at the orange-haired girl sleeping next to her with a smile as she begged him to let her sleep with him since they got back together. He woke her up to go to breakfast and they both went down to the dining room after getting dressed to find the others ready. Good morning, are you ready for team selection? Luffy asked with a smile. We are, but I hope that the two of us won't be a hindrance, Zoro said with a growl. Don't worry Morimo, with you on the team we already have a hindrance, said Sanji, serving breakfast. Look who's talking, the pervert who hinders more than helps, Zoro shouted angrily. What did you say, seaweed head? What you heard, little eyebrows. And so began a typical fight between the two of them that Nami had to stop. Well, in any case, let's go. We can't be late, said Luffy after eating his breakfast. Later. The Mugiwaras were walking down the street when they saw a lump on a fence and Konohamaru came out, shouting. I caught you, Luffy. But he tripped over the blanket he was holding and fell to the floor. Everyone rolled their eyes at him and Luffy said. What do you think you're doing, Konohamaru? That was a very clever move, that's why I respect you as my rival, Konohamaru said, getting up from the ground. I haven't done anything, said Luffy. Now face me fairly. Konohamaru said, doing a hand pose. We're sorry, Konohamaru-kun, but we have to go to orientation, Nami told him sweetly. That? To orientation? Konohamaru asked, confused. Luffy smiled and pointing at his ninja band, he said. That's right, from today we are ninjas. Really? Really? His nakamas asked themselves about that. Konohamaru looked at the band in shock, which made Luffy smile even more. Moments later, Ninja Academy. Luffy was sitting with his nakamas standing next to him when a boy with pineapple-shaped hair approached him and asked. What are you doing here, Luffy? Aren't you supposed to have failed the graduation exam? Do you see this? Open your eyes, Shikamaru, it's a ninja gang, let's train together, Luffy told him with his usual smile. Troublesome. Shikamaru said and looked at the Mugiwaras. Hey Luffy, who are they? I have never seen them around the village. As always, nothing escapes you. They are my nakamas. They are Nami, Zoro, Usopp, Sanji, Robin, Chopper, Frankie, Brook and Jinbei. Guys, this is Shikamaru Nara. He may seem like a lazy person who only likes to sleep, but he has impressive intelligence, said Luffy, introducing everyone. And that intelligence only gives me problems. Sometimes I wish to be a cloud and escape from said problems, Shikamaru said lazily. I understand you, I prefer to sleep if I don't fight. I think I'll get along well with you, Zoro said with a smile. Finally, someone who understands me, said Shikamaru. Further back, a certain girl with dark blue hair and pearly eyes was looking at Luffy with a blush. Luffy-kun, you were finally able to graduate. What a relief. But those people seem to be very close friends with him and that girl with orange hair. She looks very close, like they have a relationship. She thought shyly. However, loud footsteps were heard approaching the room and Luffy said. Oh no, here they come. I recommend that you cover your ears. Why should we do that? Nami asked confused. Listen to him, it's for your own good, Shikamaru told them, covering his ears with some earplugs. The Mugiwaras covered their ears just in time as two girls entered fighting and the one with pink hair screamed in a shrill voice. I arrived first, Ino pig. His voice was like a drill to everyone's ears, even if they were covered. Oh my god, what kind of torturous voice is that? They are a torment for my delicate ears, Nami said with irritation. She's beautiful, but I must admit that her voice is somewhat hurtful, Sanji said uncomfortably. Nuo, my ears, Chopper shouted hurt. Luffy, who are they? Zoro asked annoyed. Luffy sighed and explained. They are the president and vice president of the Sasuke Uchiha Club. That one with bubblegum hair is the president and her name is Sakura Haruno. The other is the vice president and her name is Ino Yamanaka, the heiress of the Yamanaka clan. Everyone watched the two argue, which reminded them of a certain green-haired boy and a certain blonde-haired boy. But Nami realized something in what Luffy said. Hey Luffy, and who is that Sasuke Uchiha? When Luffy was going to respond, Sakura's shrill voice was heard again, but this time next to them, which caused horrible torture. Luffy Baka, get out of there so I can sit next to Sasuke-kun, the pink cat shouted furiously. Everyone looked at her angry because of her voice, especially Nami who wanted to strangle her for speaking to Luffy like that and Ino, seeing Luffy changed, blushed. Hey Sakura, Luffy has changed and he looks very hot, she said, nudging the pink-haired girl. Please Ino, he just wants to look cool like Sasuke-kun. No matter how much he has changed, he is still the same idiot, annoying, worthless, loser and worthless person that he has always been. And now get out of my way, Luffy Baka, she shouted, preparing to hit him. However, the fist never reached Luffy because it was blocked by Nami's hand, who saw Sakura with a hatred that she never showed. Never dare to hit Luffy again, you damn gumball, she shouted angrily. Sakura moved away from her on instinct and yelled angrily. Queen ears. And why are you defending that Baka? You should realize how great Sasuke-kun is. At least you can tell me who that fool is, Nami said, already fed up. Luffy touched his shoulder and pointed to his side where a boy with black hair shaped like a duck's butt was standing and who looked at them with a do and apostrophe T bother me face. That's him. You've got to be joking, he's just a brat who wouldn't last 5 minutes against Luffy. Nami said mockingly. Sasuke looked at Nami with an angry face, who did that commoner think she was? He was an Uchiha, and a lady should be licking her feet. How dare you talk like that about my Sasuke-kun? That Luffy baka is just a nuisance, and he shouldn't step on the same ground as Sakura began to shout. However, she was grabbed by the neck by Nami's hand, who was looking at her with a dark expression. Watch your words, brat, you don't know what kind of human being Luffy is that you can talk like that. At least I can assure you that in terms of heart and kindness, that Uchiha will never come close to Luffy. We can boast of our loyalty to Luffy, because we have seen how good-hearted he is, and what he is capable of doing for someone he appreciates. Therefore, don't say those things about him again. You damn scum, Nami shouted at him with pure anger. Everyone looked at her with their mouths open, while Sakura looked at her with pure fear, and Luffy got up from the seat to take Nami away while saying, "Don't worry, it's not worth wasting your saliva on her. Leave her with her Sasuke-kun, and let's focus on ourselves. Let's go with Hinata, I want to introduce her to you." Sasuke watched them leave with a frown, while Sakura was on the ground shaking because of what happened to Nami, and Ino, along with some girls, looked at Luffy with admiration. Meanwhile, at the Hokage Tower. "It seems that Luffy and his friends have made a good impression," said the Sandaime, looking at the crystal ball with a smile. "That girl with orange hair has potential, I would like to have her on my team," said to a woman with black hair and red eyes. "No way, I want her as my apprentice so that she can be a real woman also. Luffy-kun has become attractive and serious, I would like to take him on an adventure," said to a woman with purple pineapple-shaped hair. "Don't worry, unfortunately all of them will be on Luffy-kun's team since they cannot be separated," said the Surio Sandaime. The two women sighed in disappointment, and a silver-haired man looked at the crystal ball with interest. "Luffy, Uzumaki and the Mugiwaras," I have thought lazily. Back to the living room. Luffy took the Mugiwaras with Hinata, who turned red at having him so close, which Nami and several Mugiwaras noticed. "Hello Hinata, how are you?" Luffy asked with a smile. "I'm fine, Luffy-kun," Hinata said, stuttering. "I'm too lazy to write the stutter." How cute he stutters near Luffy. She looks like she is in love with him, Nami thought with a smile. "Hey Hinata, I want to introduce you to my Nakamas. These are Nami, Zoro, Usopp, Sanji, Robin, Chopper, Frankie, Brook and Jinbei. This is Hinata Hyuga, the heiress of the Hyuga clan," Luffy introduced happily. "Nice to meet you," Hinata said. "Nice to meet you, Hinata-chan. Tell me something. Since when have you been attracted to Luffy?" Nami asked him with a smile. "Attract me?" Hinata said before fainting. Hinata, are you okay? What happened to him?" Luffy asked himself worriedly. Everyone patted their foreheads at the density of their captain, and Sanji said, "Idiot, she's in love with you." Luffy looked at him surprised and said, "Oh really? Now that I remember, she started chasing me after I saved her from some kids who were bothering her because of her eyes. She seems like she acts just like Hancock does with me." "And you haven't realized that they both love you?" Nami asked incredulously. "But now I don't know what to do, I'm dating you Nami, and I don't dare reject her if I hurt her," Luffy said, looking at Hinata worried. Then, they heard Shikamaru's voice saying, "I listened to you and I think I have the solution. My dad told me that you are the last of the Namikaze clan and the Uzumaki clan, so you can enter the Kra." "The Kra? What is that?" Nami asked curious. "Clan restoration law allows the last of a clan to take several wives to rebuild their clan. You can use it to your advantage so as not to reject Hinata for having Nami," Shikamaru explained with his eyes closed. Luffy looked at Nami as he said, "Will it be a solution?" "Maybe yes, you are someone who doesn't like to see someone precious sad and this could help," Nami said thoughtfully. But just as Sanji was cursing Luffy's good luck, Iruka came in to assign the teams. "Very well guys, you will be assigned to a team of 3 members with a Jounin as sensei. I will name the members of each team and they will have to wait for their sensei in this room," Iruka explained looking at her notes. "Team of 3. That just means more obstacles in my path," Sasuke thought arrogantly. "I just have to be on the same team as Sasuke-kun," Sakura thought pleadingly. "I just hope we don't have that bubblegum hair or that duck ass on the team," Nami said angrily. "Now I will announce the teams," Iruka said. "Teams 1 to 6 don't matter. Team 7 will be a special team made up of Luffy Uzumaki, Nami, Roronoa Zoro, Sanji, Usopp, Chopper, Nico Robin, Frankie, Brook, Jinbei, Sakura Haruno," Iruka informed. Nuo shouted all those named. "And Sasuke Uchiha. His senseis are Hada Kakashi and Night Darkness," concluded the sensei. "Wadi?" Everyone shouted when they heard that. "Shut up, let's continue, Team 8. Hinata Hyuga, Kiba Inuzuka, Shino Aburam. Your sensei will be Yui Kurenai," Iruka informed. "How do I touch you with Luffy if you don't even like him?" Ino growled at Sakura. "As if I was liked on the same team as him and his weird friends," Sakura replied with displeasure. "Oh, the blonde is attracted to Luffy. This gets more interesting," thought Nami with a feline smile. Team 10. Ino Yamanaka, Shikamaru Nara and Choji Akimichi. Their sensei will be Asuma Sarutobi. Those are the teams. Haruka concluded. Haruka-sensei, why do we have to be with bubblegum hair and a duck butt? Nami shouted indignantly. They both glared at her for the nickname since the others were laughing. Unfortunately, Sasuke was the best in the academy while Luffy was the last. It was done as a balance, and Sakura was the smartest, so it fits. Haruka explained with a sigh. The Mugiwaras looked at Luffy angrily at that information, to which he just smiled at them. Caption 4. Hada Kakashi. Luffy and the Mugiwaras were in the classroom with the emo and the fangirl, waiting for the jounin who would be their senseis. However, they had been waiting for almost 2 hours, and the senseis had not arrived. Where are they? We've been waiting a long time for them, Sakura said in a squeaky voice. If he's any longer late, I'm going to kill him, Sakura said. Could you lower the volume of your scream? There are people who completely hate your horrible voice. Nami said, cleaning her ears. Sakura looked at her angrily, and Luffy, who was with Zoro doing nothing, gathered his group to talk privately. Listen, those senseis have arrived late and I don't like it. If they do it today, they can continue doing it the rest of the days, and that's why we will teach them a lesson, said the serious one. And what will we do? Usopp asked. But everyone saw how Luffy put on an evil smile and said. Do you know how they knew me in this village? No, how? Nami asked, very interested. Luffy increased his smile as he said. A prankster without equal. That's because of the many pranks I've made and they haven't managed to catch me. I have an excellent joke for those teachers who arrive late, but I need your help. Everyone smiled excitedly and Zoro said. I like it, what do we have to do? Listen to me very well because you have to do exactly everything I tell you, Luffy said seriously. After that, Sasuke and Sakura watched the Mugiwaras work quickly around the room, and Sakura shouted. Hey, don't do that because they might scold us. This is very exciting, Sakura shouted. You close your mouth and don't say anything if you don't want to find my fist in that loud mouth of yours, Nami told him coldly. Sakura decided to keep her mouth shut, and Luffy said. Besides, this is what they earn for being late. Sasuke looked at them with his typical arrogance and said. You're stupid, our teachers are jounins. Do you really think they will fall for something stupid like that? Sanji looked at him with his annoyed face, the one he only reserved for Zoro, and said. You shut up, duck ass. You are just as unbearable as the Marimo, and I don't want to hear your horrible voice. Hey, don't compare me to that emo, I feel very offended, Zoro shouted. Sasuke looked at them with a bad face, and the Mugiwaras finished setting the trap. After a long while, they heard footsteps approaching the room, and the Mugiwaras were anxious. Before the door opened, they heard voices and recognized Knight in one of them. I knew you'd be home by this time. When are you going to stop being late for going to that rock? Knight's voice growled angrily. I'm sorry, but I had to help an old woman who crossed my path while I was walking the path of life, answered the second voice. What a pathetic excuse, thought all the Mugiwaras with a drop of sweat. That's a damn lie and you know it. I only arrived at the same time as you because I hate having to wait so long and I already know your routine for being late. Now let's go in, they must surely be angry because we were late, said Knight's voice. The door opened and a guy with gravity-defying silver hair walked in, a mask covering most of his face and his ninja headband covering one of his eyes. As he opened the door, an eraser fell on him and filled him with shock. He would have put an end to that, but the eraser had a cable that activated a series of mechanisms that the jounin followed with his gaze and saw how a bucket with some liquid fell on top of him, covering him completely. But it didn't end there, the mechanism continued until the end, in which many bird feathers were thrown towards the jounin's body, and now the sensei looked like a kind of chicken with silver hair. Ahahaha, look, he fell flat, Luffy shouted, clutching his stomach. Ahahaha, I see we have a chicken as sensei, hahaha, we'll call him Galena sensei, hahaha, Nami shouted, holding on to Luffy to keep from falling over laughing. The other Mugiwaras also laughed at the silver-haired man's misfortune, who thought. They managed to pull off a prank together. They seem to work very well as a team, and Luffy seems to be the leader. I'm really sorry, sensei. I tried to stop them but I couldn't, Sakura nervously said. It turned out perfect, Sakura shouted. Is he really a jounin? It doesn't seem very reliable. Sasuke thought with disappointment. The jounin looked at them attentively, while Knight looked at him with a smile. How can I say this? My first impression of you guys, you're a bunch of idiots. The silver-haired boy said naturally. Everyone was looking at him with a grey cloud on their heads, and Knight said. Don't pay attention to him. Go to the roof in 5 minutes. But that said, they both disappeared and everyone in the room looked at each other for a moment and then ran to the roof. 5 minutes later. Already on the rooftop, the silver-haired jounin began to speak. Very well, let's start by introducing ourselves. What do you want to know? Nami asked. About their tastes, their dislikes, their dreams for the future and things like that, the Jounin responded. Hey, and why don't you introduce yourself first? Luffy said, looking at him. Yes, it seems a little suspicious, Sakura said suspiciously. Yo. Well, my name is Hada Kakashi. I have no intention of telling what I like or dislike. My dreams for the future Amo and I have many hobbies. Kakashi introduced himself. That didn't help us at all, he just told us his name, Nami told Luffy with a drop of sweat. Ahahaha, stop sucking, Kakashi, that is a vile lie. Yes, his name is Hada Kakashi. What he likes is pornography and erotic books about him. He dislikes people who abandon a teammate and those who try to take pornography away from him. His dream for the future is to be able to have the entire Icha Paradise collection, and his hobbies are reading porn. Knight said with a giggle. Everyone saw how Kakashi was with a grey cloud and said with tears. You're bad, Knight, now they're going to know me as a pervert, sensei. Ah, they already know you as Chicken Sensei, it won't make much difference. My name is Night Darkness, my likes are my women, training and my friends. I dislike rapists, perverts and those who see people as inferior. My dream for the future is to be able to see my new friends adventure to the end, and my hobbies are reading, writing and having fun with my friends. Very good, now let's go with you and start with the gum, said Knight, pointing at Sakura. She scowled at him for the nickname and watched as the Mugiwaras held back their laughter, but she began to introduce herself. My name is Sakura Haruno, my hobby is. Look in Sasuke. My dream for the future is. Look at Sasuke again. What I like is Kaya, she shouted, looking back at Sasuke. So that's why you sign up as a ninja. But what a shame for a Kunoichi. Tama is a better ninja than her, and she's a girl, Nami thought angrily. And what do you dislike? Kakashi asked, already recovered. Luffy, Sakura shouted with clear displeasure. Luffy remained calm and Nami shouted. As if he needs you to like him, gumballs. Sakura looked at her angrily and Kakashi thought. This girl is more interested in love than in her ninja training like other ninjas her age. Alright, let's continue with the emo, Kakashi said, pointing at Sasuke. The duck's ass looked at him with a bad face, while the Mugiwaras laughed and introduced himself in his own way. My name is Sasuke-cha. I don't like many things and I don't have any hobbies. I wouldn't call it a dream, but an ambition. I'm going to re-establish my clan and destroy someone specifically. Everyone looked at him carefully and certain people had their thoughts. Sasuke-kun, it's so cool, Sakura thought. Naive child. I suffered something similar and I did not go down the path of revenge. How stupid, Nami thought with disgust. The path full of darkness, pitiful. Luffy thought. Revenge, I should have imagined it. Kakashi thought. Well, we'll see if Luffy can get him out of that way. Knight thought. Alright, let's continue with the introductions, said Kakashi. And so, the Mugiwaras introduced themselves until they reached 3 people. Alright, it's your turn, grass hair, Kakashi said, pointing at Zoro. Zoro looked at him with a demonic aura and Sanji was laughing for a long time. My name is Rarano Zoro, I like sake and swords. I dislike perverts and those who call me names because of my hair color. My hobbies are training, drinking sake and sleeping. My dream is to be the best swordsman in the world. Wow, how interesting. Okay, you go on, Tangerine, said Kakashi, pointing at Nami. Nami smiled at having a good nickname and began to introduce herself. My name is Nami, my likes are tangerines, money and my captain. My dislikes are perverts, rapists and those who think I'm weak just because I'm a woman. My hobbies are drawing maps, sunbathing and living adventures with my captain. And my dream right now is to be the best Kunoichi to prove that we can be as strong as any man. Interesting, she shows a conviction and will like Kunoichi in the same way that Tsunade-sama does. She asked me how they would get along if they met. Kakashi thought. Very good. And lastly you go, little monkey, he said, pointing at Luffy. Luffy gave him a smile and began to introduce himself. My name is Monkey D. Uzumaki Luffy. I like ramen, meat and my nakamas. I dislike people who try to be above others and those who enslave. My hobbies are going on adventures, making jokes, and eating a lot of meat and ramen. And my dreams for the future are to become the king of the pirates and the best holage, so I will be the freest man in the world and this village will see me as someone, really. The Mugiwaras came at him with a smile, Sakura looked at him surprised, Sasuke thought he was a complete idiot, and as for the senseis. It seems that everything Hokage-sama told me was true. Luffy is someone who can inspire many to achieve their dreams. Kakashi thought with an eye smile. Very good, Luffy. You are proving your worth to everyone in this world. Knight thought with a smile all over her face. Very well, tomorrow I want you at training ground number 7 for your genin test, said Kakashi. But Kakashi-sensei, we have already taken the test to be genin. Why should we take another one? Sakura asked confused. Oh that. It was only to throw those who passed into the real test, said Knight. What do you mean, Knight-sensei? Nami asked. If I tell them, they won't like it, Knight said with a smile. Everyone looked at him with fear and Kakashi responded. Of all the graduates, only 3 teams will pass. The rest will be rearranged and sent to the academy. Everyone looked at him with absolute surprise and Knight said. You see, I told you wouldn't like it. Tomorrow's test will determine if they are suitable to be one of those 3 teams, and if they do not pass, unfortunately they will have to return to the academy to start again. This is a pass or return test, so they have a lot of pressure on them. The Mugiwaras looked at the senseis with clear defiance, while Sakura begged to pass so as not to be separated from her Sasuke-kun, and the emo only thought he was going to win because he was in a Uchiha. Well, that's all. Oh, and tomorrow it's better not to have breakfast or you'll vomit. Kakashi said, leaving. Think about each of our words and prepare for tomorrow's exam, Knight said, disappearing in a shuncheon of darkness. Left alone, Sakura tried to ask Sasuke out on a date, which she failed miserably and the Mugiwaras met to discuss. What do you think of what they said? Luffy asked. All true until the breakfast part. How do you order us not to eat breakfast for a test? We will die of hunger and we will not survive, Usopp said. It's a trap, he knows that with our empty stomachs we won't achieve much, and he told us that to make it more difficult for us, said Sanji. I think the same, except that it was a suggestion and not an order, so we can ignore it, said Robin. Okay, we will go to the house to create a plan, and Sanji-kun will make us a good breakfast for the test. If those 2 fools decide to heed the suggestion, that's up to them, but we won't allow Luffy's second dream to fall tomorrow. Let's go home, Nami said seriously. Everyone and agreed went to the Uzumaki compound to prepare for tomorrow's test. Chapter 5. Equipment Test Part 1. The next day they were all at Training Ground 7, and Luffy's group didn't speak to the other 2 while they waited. They had arrived a little later than them because Nami said that if that silver-haired sensei was late once, he would do it again. Minutes later, Kakashi and Knight arrived and Sakura shouted. You're late. Ah, a black cat crossed my path and I had to take the longest route, Kakashi apologized in a terrible way. He is worse than Zoro because he gives terrible excuses, Nami said with a drop of sweat. I heard you, Zoro shouted angrily. Then, Knight went towards them and took them to the logs. What's wrong, Knight-sensei? Where are you taking us? Usopp asked confused. You won't do the test with Luffy. He will do it with just those 2 so that everyone can pass, Knight said seriously. That? But I thought we would all take the test, Zoro shouted angrily. Luffy already has excellent teamwork with all of you, and that is why you should let him do this alone. He must learn to work on another team and must forge that with Sakura and Sasuke. Depending on how you do on the test, you will pass too. Therefore, you stay here and watch the test in silence. Knight said standing next to them. Everyone looked at Luffy's test in silence. Luffy had heard everything and sighed at having to work as a team with a fangirl who didn't want him around and an emo who wouldn't even die to team up with him because of his Uchiha pride in him. He watched as Kakashi placed a clock on one of the posts where the Mugiwaras were and said. Okay, I scheduled it for noon. Everyone looked at him confused when he pulled out 2 bells and continued. Here are 2 bells. Your job is to take them from me before time runs out. Those who don't have a bell by noon won't eat. I'll tie you to one of those logs and you'll watch me eat my lunch in front of you. So that's why he said not to eat. Sakura thought. Her and Sasuke's stomach grew, but they noticed how Luffy's stomach was completely silent and Kakashi said. Luffy, didn't you pay attention to what I said? The truth is, sensei, what you said was a suggestion and I had every right to ignore it, Luffy said with a foxy smile. Luffy Baka, you shouldn't have disobeyed Kakashi sensei's order, Sakura shouted angrily. Hey, Gum Knight sensei said to think about every word he said and prepare for this. Luffy just followed the instructions when analyzing Chicken sensei's words and ate breakfast based on the suggestion, Nami yelled angrily. And that's why I made him a huge breakfast so he would be ready, Sanji said, smoking his cigarette. Kakashi looked at them with an eye smile and said. It's true. I said that as a suggestion so Luffy passed that test successfully. Now, you just have to get a bell. Then, Sakura realized something. Wait a minute, there are 3 of us and there are only 2 bells, she said worriedly. Exactly. That way, one of you will end up tied to the log and watch me eat breakfast in front of you. The person who doesn't have a bell will return to the academy, Kakashi said seriously. Everyone looked at him in shock and Kakashi continued. If you want, you can use shurikens and kunai. They won't win unless they come to me with the intention of winning. This is crazy, sensei, we could kill him, Sakura screamed in fear. Shishishi, especially when he couldn't avoid that trap, Luffy said smiling. I know you are a clown in your class and clowns are naturally the weakest. They are easily ignored and because of their low grades they are losers. When I say start, you can start, Kakashi said in a critical tone. Hearing this, Luffy got angry and grabbed a kunai. He went towards Kakashi to attack him before everyone's stunned gaze. But suddenly, Kakashi appears behind Luffy, holding his arm and pointing his kunai at him. "Don't hurry, I haven't said to start yet," he said lazily. Sakura and Sasuke walked away in surprise. "He's so fast, I didn't even see him," Sakura thought in amazement. "So this is a jounin?" Sasuke thought seriously. Meanwhile, the Mugiwaras were also impressed, but for something else. "I don't understand. Why did Luffy attack Sensei like a rabid beast? He was never like that, he managed to stay calm when he was provoked most of the time," Nami said without being able to understand it. Knight let out a sigh and said. "That is due to his mother's genes." Everyone looked at him and he continued explaining. The Uzumakis were known for many things, but the most common was their terrible temper. If you make an Uzumaki angry, be careful, because you will be facing a demon from which you will not be able to save yourself. Luffy's mother in this world, Kushina Uzumaki, was a woman who left many in the hospital just for making her angry. She was known as the Bloody Habanero for that reason, and it was for that reason that she was greatly feared in the Shinobi world. For this reason, Luffy gets angry easily and falls for provocations easily. They will have to deal with that. Everyone agreed at what he said and continued watching Luffy's test of him. They saw how Kakashi smiled with his eye at Luffy and said. "But, you came to me with the intention of killing me. So how can I say this? I think I'm liking them. Ready? Now, begin." In this way, Luffy, Sakura and Sasuke disappeared into hiding. "A ninja must hide effectively," said Kakashi, looking around the field. Sakura had hidden in some bushes and Sasuke was in the branches of a tree. "Oh. They understand that very well, they are hiding very well," Kakashi thought. But he saw how Luffy appeared in front of him and said. "You and me now, in a fair fight, what does it say?" All the Mugiwaras looked at him with their mouths open and Sasuke thought. Of course, he's an idiot. "No. Compared to the others, you are a bit strange," Kakashi said with a drop of sweat. "Oh yeah? The only strange thing is your haircut," Luffy said, launching himself to attack him. "What is he doing? He's attacking like a real idiot." Before he was more serious when fighting his opponents, but now he's fighting like a child having a tantrum, Zoro shouted angrily. No. They are seeing things wrong. "Keep watching, because I think Luffy will give you a surprise," Knight said with a smile. Everyone looked at him confused but continued watching the test to see how Kakashi reached into his kunai holder. Luffy stopped and heard Kakashi say. Shinobi Battle Techniques, Part 1, Taijutsu, the physical art. Taijutsu? That's hand-to-hand combat. Then why is he pulling out a gun? Luffy thought confused. But to everyone's surprise, Kakashi took out a book from his kunai holder and opened it. But what? Luffy shouted without understanding anything. "What's happening? Come on, attack me," Kakashi said as he read. "But why are you reading that book?" Luffy asked. "Why? To investigate what happens in history, that's why. Don't worry, with your weak attacks it doesn't matter if I'm reading or not," Kakashi said so calmly. "But I heard a whistle from the Mugiwaras and Sanji that said. Unfortunately you won't be able to read anything if it's Luffy you're going to fight with." Kakashi didn't understand what they were talking about, but he heard Luffy shout. "Omugomu no jet pistol." He realized in time to remove himself with maximum speed from a blow that was coming towards him. He looked towards Luffy to find him in the same place and saw steam coming out of his body. Meanwhile, the other two hidden team members saw what happened and were open-mouthed. "I can't believe it, that Baka hit at a speed I couldn't see, and that steam coming out of his body is as if it were a human thermal bath. What is he?" Sakura thought, shocked. "How is it possible? She managed to move a jounin from that distance and at a speed greater than what he used. How can he do that and I can't?" Sasuke thought furiously. Kakashi looked at him carefully and thought. Wow, it seems that he is not a complete idiot as he seems, and that in him seems like some kind of Kekkei Genkai that I have never seen. However. Instantly, he disappeared from everyone's sight and when they looked for him, they heard his voice in the same place where Luffy was. "Don't leave your enemy behind you," Kakashi said behind Luffy with a hand pose. "Is that the sign of the tiger? It's going to end the Baka," Sakura thought. "That pose is for a fire-style jutsu. He's not just going to attack him, he's going to pulverize him. Serves him right for trying to be better than me, and Uchiha," Sasuke thought with an evil smile. The Mugiwaras also saw this, and Nami shouted. "Luffy, careful. Very late. Secret jutsu of the Leaf Village. 1,000 years of death," Kakashi shouted, digging his fingers into Luffy's butt. As Luffy flew away, Nami wanted to throw herself at the silver-haired man in anger, while Zoro and Usopp restrained her. "Damn chicken sensei, I am going to kill you. No one takes away Luffy's virginity and purity more than me," she shouted with the face of a demon. Suddenly, two shuriken came out of the lake and headed towards Kakashi. But he stops them easily while Luffy leaves the lake. Meanwhile, "You total idiots," Sasuke said in his hiding place. "Yes, I can be an idiot at some things but a genius when it comes to fighting," said a voice behind him. Sasuke turned around alertly to find Luffy leaning against the trunk of the tree, looking at him with a big smile. "Oh, how come you are here if you are fighting Kakashi-sensei?" Sasuke asked angrily. Luffy pointed towards the field and looking, Sasuke saw how there were about 7 Luffy running towards Kakashi. "Clones? How did you do it?" Sasuke asked again with annoyance. "It doesn't matter. I am the original and I come to ask you to work as a team," said Luffy with a serious face. "I don't need to team up with anyone because I'm an elite Uchiha. Now leave me alone, and after the test, you will tell me everything about that strange power you used while ago," Sasuke said angrily. Luffy sighed and decided to leave him alone. But Sakura, at the same time. That's not ninjutsu. Secret jutsu. It was just a blow to the ass," said the pink-haired girl in her hiding place. "Yes, that must hurt, and I don't think I'm going to like it when I dissipate the clone," Luffy said behind her. Sakura was going to scream, but Luffy covered her mouth and continued. "Don't scream or he will discover you that is a clone just like me, and I come to offer you that we work together to obtain the bells." He removed his hand from him, only to hear Sakura say with annoyance. "I don't need to team up with a baka like you. Sasuke-kun will get those bells, and together we will pass the test. Now get out." Luffy rolled his eyes at her and, shrugging his shoulders, said. "Okay, if you want I'll leave you alone. But remember this. Despite how you treat me, I will not leave you abandoned because you are my nakama just like Sasuke, and I never abandon my nakamas." With that, he disappeared in smoke, leaving a thoughtful Sakura. Back to the fight. Kakashi was trapped with 6 Luffys holding him down, and another one was going to hit him. But the Luffy behind him smiled strangely, and when the other Luffy punched Kakashi, he found himself punching himself. The Mugiwaras watched this with their mouths open as all the Luffys disappeared from the place at high speed. "What happened, Knight-sensei?" Robin asked curiously. Knight looked at a certain place in the field and said. "It seems that one has already passed the test." Then, they saw how Kakashi appeared before them and said. "How strange," he acted as if he had planned everything. "I think I'll have to." But he was impaled by several kunai and shurikens that Sasuke threw, and when everyone thought he was hurt, the silver-haired man burst into smoke to be replaced by a log. Substitution. "Now he knows where they are," Knight said with a smile. Elsewhere in the field. Luffy saw with a smile the bells that his clone took from Kakashi and prepared to watch how the other 2 did it without him. Chapter 6. Equipment Test Part 2. Sasuke ran since the sensei discovered him, and Sakura did the same to find her Sasuke-kun. But she stopped when she saw Kakashi reading his book and started to keep an eye on him. However, she heard a voice saying. "Sakura, behind you." She turned to find Kakashi behind her and gave a scream so terrifying she scared some of the Mugiwaras. At that moment, Kakashi put her in a genjutsu and she found herself alone. "Hey? What is this? What's going on? Where is sensei?" she asked herself, looking around. But she heard a voice behind her saying. "Sakura." "That voice Sasuke-kun," she shouted, turning around. But what she saw left her frozen as in front of her was Sasuke covered in piercing weapons, covered in blood and saying to her. "Sakura, help me." She saw this with total horror and gave another horrifying scream, which Usopp, upon hearing it, shouted. "What's that? Is an evil spirit coming for me?" Kakashi watched as the pink-haired girl fell to the ground unconscious and said while reading her book. I may have missed it a little, but she has to learn this way." Near him, Luffy had the same thought. "I just hope she has learned." Meanwhile, Sasuke had heard Sakura scream and said. "That screams Sakura. Ninja Lesson, Part 2. Genjutsu. Sakura has easily fallen for him," Kakashi told him, appearing behind him. Sasuke just grew up in annoyance. "In jutsu it's just hypnosis and she has fallen for that trick, but I'm not like them. I'm an elite," Sasuke said arrogantly. "Say that once you get a bell, Sasuke-kun. The most powerful clan in the village, the Uchiha clan." "This will be interesting," said Kakashi, standing in front of him. They both stared at each other, analyzing each other to be able to make a move. Near them, Luffy watched everything from a tree, curious about what the Uchiha would do. Sasuke was the first to move, throwing several shurikens towards Kakashi, who dodged them with ease. "Attacks as obvious as those will be useless," the silver-haired man said mockingly. But Sasuke smiled as one of the shuriken hit a rope, cutting it. "The trap," thought Kakashi seeing this. Suddenly, several daggers were thrown towards Kakashi, who managed to successfully avoid them. But Sasuke appeared behind him, launching a kick that he blocked with his hand. Then, Kakashi grabbed Sasuke's leg, so the black-haired man threw a punch that the silver-haired boy blocked with his other hand. However, Sasuke launched a kick at Sensei's face with his free leg, causing him to block it with his arm. Sasuke smiled arrogantly as he saw that he had the bells within his reach and with one free hand, he rushed to grab them. But he could only touch one before Kakashi shoved them both away. "It's strong, I didn't even have time to read Icha Paradise," the silver-haired man thought seriously. Luffy watched the fight with analytical eyes and sighed. "Stupid, Icha. You may think you have enough skills to take on anyone, but if you were up against even Rob Lucci you would have lost instantly. In my world you wouldn't even make it to Alabasta with those skills and confidence. And I say this from experience, rookie," I thought, looking at Sasuke with pity. Meanwhile, Sakura woke up from her genjutsu confused by what happened. Hey? But what, he asked himself when he woke up. But he remembered what he saw before he passed out and became worried. Oh, yes. Sasuke-kun was about to die and he asked me for help, she thought, terrified. "Sasuke-kun, do not die, don't leave me behind, where are you?" She started screaming like crazy. Back with Sasuke. "Well, I have to admit that you are not like the other two. Although Luffy managed to impress me," Kakashi said, looking at Sasuke. Sasuke got angry at that comment and started tracing the horse and tiger signals to inhale air for a jutsu. The battle. Judgment of the Heavenly Father. Furet's puzzle. That. A genin can't have enough chakra to perform the jutsu, Kakashi shouted, looking at him with surprise. A huge ball of fire came out of Sasuke's mouth and covered the place where Kakashi was. But when the smoke cleared, Sasuke saw that no one was there. She has disappeared. Where can she be? In the air? No, on the sides. I thought, looking for it. But I heard a voice that said to him. Below. Then he felt his leg being grabbed from the ground and when he looked, he could see a hand sticking out of the ground. That. I thought, upset. Got it. New Judgment Tiara style. Judgment Decapitation in Tiara by Kakashi. Immediately, Sasuke was pulled into the earth, leaving only his head outside of it. Kakashi looked at him with an eye smile and said. Shinobi Battle Lesson, Part 3. Ninjutsu. Well, this way you are equal to the rest. But hey, it is said that the nail that sticks out should be filed again, hahaha. And just like that he left, leaving a grumpy Uchiha buried in the ground. Luffy watched him with a chuckle, thinking that the Uchiha deserved it for being so cocky. Sasuke groaned at what was happening to him and thought. Buck, there's a big difference, but I'm an Uchiha. But he and Luffy saw how Sakura arrived and saw the Uchiha with a frightened face and screamed. Ah, her head is cut off. Sasuke and Luffy looked at her with a "it must be a joke" look when they saw her faint on the ground. Luffy sighed and thought. I thank whatever deity in my world makes it so that Nami's only disadvantage is her greed, although I like that about her too. If she was just as fangirly and stupid, she would have thrown me off the ship even though I was an idiot. Then he saw how Sasuke tried to wake up Sakura, who was awakened by Sasuke's voice. Sasuke-kun's voice. She thought as she got up. She saw him before her and threw herself into his arms while saying. Sasuke-kun, are you okay? Get away, don't hug me, he yelled, pushing her away abruptly. Luffy saw this with a bad face, since he didn't like a Nakama being hurt that way. Yes, he could have hit Vivi on that occasion, but it was so that she would reconsider her responsibility. But he would never hurt a Nakama in a bad way, he would never hurt them like Sasuke did to Sakura now. He watched as Sasuke stood up and said. It's almost until lunch, I'll do it again. Sasuke-kun, are you still trying to get a bell? Sakura asked, looking at him. I've already touched one, next time it will be mine, Sasuke told him with annoyance. Luffy decided it was time to talk to them and appeared to them saying. Oh really? How do you do? If you haven't managed to take one from a Jounin sensei, you won't be able to take one from a supernova in my world. Sasuke and Sakura looked at him surprised and Sasuke shouted. Shut up, dope, I don't see you with a bell either, don't think you're better than me when you're nothing more than a clanless commoner inferior to me, and tell me what that power was that you used against Kakashi sensei and you will hand it over to me now. Luffy just looked at him with a sigh and stretched his face as he said. Unfortunately I cannot give you my power since only I can have it. I am made entirely of rubber and what you saw was my second gear pumping the blood in my body. Thanks to that, I can have greater speed as well as more strength. Are you made of rubber? How is it possible? Sakura asked, shocked. I will tell you later, but I am here to tell you that I have seen them perform during the test and I am disappointed. They don't have the skills and experience to survive someone dangerous, said Luffy with clear disappointment. Shut up, you're nobody to tell me that I'm an Uchiha, an elite, I'm superior to, Sasuke shouted angrily. But Luffy looked at him with powerful eyes and released his king's haki in a way that only made the two knees before him. Don't come with your delusions of grandeur, Uchiha, I can assure you that if you were in my world you wouldn't last 5 seconds before falling to a strong pirate. I have faced the most powerful men of the seas with my head held high, and I have reached the end through effort. A brat like you will never be able to tell me that I am nothing if he has never faced the beasts that I have. Know your place. Tiled, he shouted furiously. They were both paralyzed by the great will that Luffy released. Sakura looked at him impressed by what she felt, and Sasuke was only furious that such power was not hers. But the bell was heard ringing, and Luffy stopped releasing his king's haki to say. Well, time is up and I think sensei is waiting for us. Come on. He vanished, leaving a really upset Uchiha and a thoughtful Pinkett. 10 minutes later. The three of them stood with the Mugiwaras, looking at the two senseis before them. Well, it seems that no one managed to get a rattle. Oh, and about the training, I have decided not to send them to the academy, Kakashi said, looking at them. Everyone looked at him confused and Sakura shouted. Does that mean that we? Yes, it means that they will stop being ninjas, Kakashi said seriously. Sasuke and Sakura looked at him with complicated faces, but Luffy intervened. Sensei, it's not necessary. I will not send anyone to the academy nor deny anyone anything since I have the bells. He showed the two bells in his hands, so Kakashi watched in surprise as the ones he had turned into stones. Hahaha. Luffy was too smart for you, Chicken Sensei, Nami said, laughing. But how? Kakashi wondered in astonishment. Simple. He fought with a shadow clone all the time, and when he saw the opportunity, he exchanged the bells for transformed stones, and he gave them to me, Luffy explained with a smile. Awesome. Luffy planned a good strategy, Sanji said with a smile. Kakashi was still dumbfounded and Knight said with a smile. Very good, Luffy. Now, who will you give the other bell to and who will send you to the academy? Luffy looks at Sasuke, who was looking at him with anger for achieving what he couldn't, and at Sakura, who was looking at him with shyness as well as nerves. Then, to everyone's surprise, he threw a bell into the air and shouted. Zoro, cut it. Zoro agreed and pulled out his sword a little, whereafter the bell broke in half. Luffy took the two halves and gave them to both of them, saying. I'm sorry, but they are already my nakama, and as a captain, I never abandoned a nakama. We will all be ninjas or none of us will be. The Mugiwara saw him with a smile as he did Knight, and Kakashi looked at him with his eye wide open as he thought about his late friend's words from him. He smiled and said. Very good, Luffy. You've discovered that it's all about teamwork. You are right, in this team we are all nakamas and we must work together. In the ninja world, those who break the rules are scum. But those who abandon nakama are worse than scum. Everyone looked at him with admiration and Luffy said. You new words, sensei. It's something everyone in my world should hear. The Mugiwara agreed at his words, and Kakashi said. End of training. Everyone approved Team 7's mission start tomorrow. Luffy smiled along with the Mugiwaras, and together they returned to the Uzumaki compound to rest. Chapter 7. Mission in the Waves. In the forest there was a curious ambush. What is the distance of the target? 5 meters, I'm in position. B2. Why should we do this? Shut up and let's go get him. Let's go. The entire Team 7 charged towards the target and Luffy was the one who was able to catch it. I caught you, he said with a smile. The bow on the right ear, it must be the cat Tora, Nami said with a smile. We've been trapping that damn cat for a week, I'm about to turn him into cut meat, Zoro shouted very angrily. Good. Search mission for the cat Tora, completed. Kakashi reported from his earpiece of him. Back at the Hokage Tower. Oh, my cute little Tora-chan. I was so worried. Said the feudal lord's wife, crushing the animal. In your face, you stupid animal. Sasuke thought, all covered in scratches. No wonder he ran away. Nami thought with a drop of sweat. Well, the new mission of Kakashi and Knight's Team 7 consists of babysitting the feudal lord's grandson, going shopping in the neighboring village, and helping to plant potatoes, said the Sandaime, looking at the mission catalog. But certain people were already fed up with this. No thanks, we want to do a real mission, we really do, find us a better mission, Luffy shouted, already fed up. Luffy is right, these missions are better for children. With the strength of the Mugiwaras, we can have a real mission, Nami shouted, supporting Luffy. That's how it is, we have defeated powerful crews and we don't deserve missions as pathetic as catching a stupid cat, Zoro shouted angrily. The other Mugiwaras acknowledged his words, while the rest of Team 7 had their own thoughts. What do these people think? There is no way they can be above an Uchiha. Sasuke thought, annoyed. They seem more experienced in combat and danger. I don't know if I can keep up with him. Sakura thought uncomfortably. I imagine Luffy would be like that, but I didn't think his nakamas would act that way too, Knight thought with a drop of sweat. Idiots, everyone is starting with simple missions and will work to rise in rank, Haruka shouted angrily. But these shitty missions are useless, Nami shouted, totally furious. It seems that I have to explain to them the reason for these missions. Listen, in this village numerous assignments arrive every day, from babysitting to murders. Missions of different types appear in the order log. They are classified in a difficulty ranking, by letters. According to said level of difficulty, being A, B, C and D, from highest to lowest. The village is also divided according to skills. Starting with me, the Jounin, the Chunin and the Genin follow. Distributing the missions corresponds to the superiors, and we attach them to each ninja according to their capabilities. And if the mission is completed successfully they will receive the reward money. You have just become Genin and D-rank missions are enough, the Sandaime explained seriously. Last night we had ramen with pork for dinner, so today we will eat, Luffy said with his nakamas without paying attention. Listen to me when I speak to you, the Sandaime shouted at them furiously. I'm sorry, Knight said on behalf of everyone. But Luffy started shouting angrily. Hey, old man, I'm not some weakling who should do farming missions. I have been a pirate who defeated several Shichibukes, a Yonkou, and managed to get where everyone wanted. Mugiwaras deserve cool quests, we are not weak. All the Mugiwaras nodded at his words, and the three adults looked at them with a smile. Okay. If you want it so much, I will give you a C-rank mission. It is a mission to protect a certain individual, said the Sandaime with a smile. Maybe I've been underestimating Luffy-kun and his crew about him. I thought. Luffy looked at him with excitement and asked. Quien? Quien? A feudal lord. One princess. They will know him right away. You can enter, said the Sandaime looking at the entrance. Everyone looked at the entrance to see an old drunk man who could barely stand up. What is this? They told me that ninjas would protect me, and I only see brats. At least the one with the tricolor hair, the Marimo head, and the blonde one seems trustworthy, said the old man with an annoyed face. Sanji laughed at Zoro, who looked at the old man with a face of death, and Sasuke clenched his fists to see how some commoners made him look like he was someone simple. My name is Tazuna. I am a great bridge builder. I expect super protection from you until I reach my country and complete the bridge. Tazuna said arrogantly. Hey, that word is super mine, Frankie shouted angrily. Some time later, at the entrance to the village. Everyone was ready to leave, and Luffy shouted. Let's go. Why so desperate? Sakura asked with a drop of sweat. Because I am a man of adventures and I don't like to be in one place, Luffy said seriously. Hey, am I really safe with this moron? Tazuna asked, annoyed. Haha, well don't worry, I'm a Jounin, Kakashi said with an eye smile. Hey, old man, don't mess with Luffy, you don't know what he's capable of. One day he will be the greatest pirate of all time, the Pirate King. Remember his name well, old man, Monkey D. Luffy Nami shouted at Tazuna with fury. Pirate King. Ha, if that brat reaches Ray, I'll start flying in a diaper, Tazuna said mockingly. Nami gave him a feline smile and said. Get ready the wings and diaper, you stupid old man. You're going to need them. Later. Everyone was walking towards the land of waves when Sakura asked. Tazuna-san, are you from the country of waves? Why do you say that? Tazuna asked. Kakashi sensei, are there ninjas in that country too? Sakura asked curiously. No, in the country of waves there are no ninjas. But yes, in the rest of the country's elements. There are other hidden villages, therefore there are ninjas there too. Although they have cultures and customs different from ours, Kakashi explained. He continued explaining about the 5 elemental countries and the cages when they saw a puddle of water. Luffy, Zoro and Sanji felt something from that puddle with their observation haki, a human presence, and Nami thought when she saw it. The puddle. It hasn't rained in the last few days so there shouldn't be one. Suspicious. Everyone crossed the puddle, with some being cautious, and out of it came 2 ninjas with a chain full of blades. They lunged at Kakashi and wrapped the chain around him to tear him to pieces in front of everyone. Ah, Kakashi-sensei, Sakura screamed in horror. One less, the rest remain, said one of the ninjas. They attacked Luffy with the same intention, and Sasuke tried to act to prove his superiority, but he didn't like what he saw. Luffy moved quickly and grabbed the chain with his hand to throw the 2 ninjas to the ground, creating a crater. Both ninjas spat blood from the blow, but Luffy did not end there and covered his fist with haki, which left Sasuke and Sakura surprised, to defeat them. Gomu Gomu no jet pistol, he shouted with fury. He sent 2 blows to both of them that left them completely knocked out. The 2 genin watched this with wide eyes, while the Mugiwaras had a smile. Then they heard a familiar voice behind them. Good job, Luffy. You've shown that you have control in these types of situations, said Kakashi appearing. Everyone looked at him in shock and Sakura asked. Kakashi-sensei, how is he alive if we saw him? But he saw how there were several pieces of logs in the place and realized what had happened. Hawarimi. He really is not someone who should be underestimated, Nami said with a smile. On the other hand, Sasuke saw Luffy with hatred for what had happened. How do you dare? I'm an elite Uchiha, I must be stronger, and that power that he showed, that black thing on his body, what is it? That power must belong to the Uchiha, he thought with anger. Kakashi looked at Tazuna and said. I need to talk to you. They look like Chunins from the Mist Village. These ninjas are famous for fighting no matter what. There's something I need to know what those 2 are up to. Tazuna looked at him with sweat and asked. What do you mean? That they were behind you or us? We didn't know there were ninjas following him, our mission is simply to protect him from bandits and thieves. This has become a B-rank quest. This was supposed to be simple protection until you complete the bridge. If you had known that there were ninjas behind you, this mission would have been classified as B, making it more expensive. I'm sure you were right, but you've caused problems by lying about the mission. Now we are operating outside of our orders, Kakashi explained with complete seriousness. We are not ready for this mission. Let's retreat, let's go back to the village, Sakura said scared. Knight looked at the Mugiwaras and saw them with such professional determination that he said. This can be dangerous, but maybe there are no problems with trying it. Everyone looked at him surprised, especially Sakura who looked at him with fear and continued. We will continue with the mission, but you must pay for a B-rank mission. What do they say? For me, fine. I don't have any problems, Luffy said with a smile. We don't have any problems either, said Nami, pointing to the Mugiwaras. Well, if they don't have problems, neither do I, Sakura said resignedly. Kakashi nodded and looked at Sasuke. What about you, Sasuke? The Uchiha looked at Luffy with anger and said. I do not have a problem, but I demand the Doge to tell me about that power he used on his arm against those ninjas. It's true. I'm curious about that too. What is it? Sakura asked interested. I'm curious anyway. Is it some kind of bloodline, Luffy? Kakashi asked curiously. Luffy sighed and said. I can only give you the name of the power since I have the right to reserve the information about this power for those of my clan, that is, everyone in my crew. It's called Haki, and it is a power widely used in my world to achieve our dreams. Well, we move better. You're right, Luffy. We must move, said Knight, starting to walk. Sasuke kept looking at Luffy with anger for saying that power couldn't be his, and he was willing to obtain that power called Haki in any way. Chapter 8. Zabuza Mamachi. Some time later, near the land of waves. They were all in two boats through a thick fog that didn't let them see anything. What a dense fog. I don't see anything, Nami said, trying to look for her. We will soon see the bridge. The country of waves is at the base of the bridge, said the boatman. The two ships approached a bridge under construction, leaving everyone amazed by such a work. Super, it's a masterpiece of carpentry, Frankie shouted with emotion. Hey, shut up, why do you think we hide in the fog and don't use an engine? We will have a big problem if Gato finds us, one of the boatmen told him angrily. Everyone was silent when they remembered what the builder said about that Gato guy, and they stayed silent so as not to have problems. We will arrive soon. Tazuna, it seems that we have not been detected so far, but just as a precaution, we will take the route that has vegetation. This way it will be more difficult for them to find us, said the boatman, looking at the old man. Okay, thank you, Tazuna said, now sober. The boats passed under the bridge to reach a greener area where they could see the wave town. They arrived at the dock where the boatman left them while one of them said. We're done now. Bye and good luck. Yes, thank you very much. Tazuna said looking at him. When the boatman left, the old man began to walk while saying. Okay, take me home safely. Yes, 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 Kakashi told him with a drop of sweat. However, something else was going on in his mind. If they attack us again, it will surely not be a Chunin, but a Jounin. Meanwhile, Sasuke looked at Luffy with hatred and thought. Good. That commoner will not be the center of attention again. I look everywhere like an idiot, and when I hear a noise, I throw a shuriken shouting. There. Everyone saw him with a drop of sweat when nothing happened, and the stupid man only said. There was only one rat. This stupid guy is just trying to act important. Seriously, even being an idiot, Luffy has never done something as stupid as that. Nami said mockingly. Hey, if Sasuke-kun threw a shuriken, it's because he's so cool. Luffy's baka will never do something as cool as what Sasuke-kun does, Sakura shouted at him furiously. Nami looked at her with a look of contempt and said. That's because he doesn't need to do it, and he doesn't even need to be as cool as you say. Luffy is much better than that emotional duck just by being the same because of his heart and way of being. Your Sasuke-kun will never be able to reach what Luffy is, not even in 100 years. Sakura looked at her, grinding her teeth in anger, and Sasuke made the worst mistake of his life. He went to Nami and grabbing her arm, he yelled. Shut up, you worthless commoner, I am an Uchiha and elite, and you should only lick the floor where I walk. If I wanted, I would have you as my breeding machine to bring back the clan, but you're just a weakling without the genes to do it, and that commoner Luffy just. But he stopped when he was thrown to the floor by Luffy's hand, and Luffy looked at him with an anger beyond anything they had seen. Listen to me well, Uchiha, you can say whatever you want about me, but never say anything like that again to any of my nakama, much less to Nami. You should know that there are two things that no one can talk about in my presence like that. My nakamas and our dreams. If you mess with any of them, you will find my fury in response. Now apologize to Nami, Luffy shouted at the jet with great anger. I will never apologize to that commoner, the idiot, Sasuke shouted in response. Do it, Luffy yelled again. However, Nami gently put him on his shoulder and said. Leave it, Luffy. It is not worth demanding an apology from him, and furthermore, it would be worthless. What would be worth it to me is that you give me a good adventure when I return. Hearing those words, Kakashi, Sanji and Usopp had a nosebleed as they imagined the adventure she was talking about, and Luffy looked at her with a complicated face. Can I really have an adventure, which you explained to me at the venue, with you when I return? I asked him nervously. Nami looked at him flirtatiously and getting close to her face, she licked his ear like a lustful kitten to whisper. I loved how you defended me against the emotional duck, and I want my first adventure with you. When we get back, we won't leave the room until dawn. Luffy just turned a very red tone on his face because of that while Sakura looked at him with jealousy while thinking about everything that happened, and Sasuke just groaned at seeing that he had been completely humiliated. However, he heard a noise again and threw another shuriken towards the source of the noise. Hey, stop trying to be cool, it doesn't fit you, Sanji shouted, angry at him. You shut up, low-class blonde, I heard something in those bushes, something that a commoner like you could never do, Sasuke told him in a very arrogant manner. Zoro had to hold Sanji down so he wouldn't kick him to death, and Knight went into the bushes to look for the shuriken, finding a very scared bunny. Emotional duck, what the hell did you do? Nami yelled at Sasuke, really angry. Poor bunny, don't be afraid anymore, said Luffy, hugging the poor bunny. Oh, it's just a rabbit, Zoro said with a drop of sweat. But Kakashi looked at the bunny seriously and thought. That's a snow rabbit, it's still spring, why is it that color? On the other hand, Chopper had a similar thought and said to Robin. It's strange, I've seen that type of rabbit on my island, and it doesn't have that color. The snow bunny changes its color based on the amount of sunlight. Its color is white during winter. Robin and agreed said. That rabbit must have been locked in a box in order to prevent the body from changing color. Knight agreed to all that and said. That means they are already here. Then, several people detected something and shouted. Everyone down. Luffy launched himself at Nami, Robin, Sakura and Usopp to knock them to the ground, just as Zoro knocked Chopper down with Brook, Sanji knocked down the other Mugiwaras, Kakashi knocked down Sasuke, and Knight knocked down Tazuna just in time to dodge a large sword that passed over everyone to stick into a tree. Looking at the sword, everyone could see a muscular man with bandages covering his mouth and who looked at them with eyes full of bloodlust. Well, this is my chance to put these commoners in their place. Sasuke thought with an evil smile. The man looked at them as if they were insects, and Kakashi stood in front of him to say. Wow, isn't this the lost ninja from the hidden village of the mist, Zabuza Mamachi? Ready, let's go, Sasuke thought, preparing to fight. He was going to attack, but Knight stopped him with his hand saying. No, stay behind, this is on another level. Zabuza looked at them intently as Kakashi and Knight removed their luggage and said. Against him, Kakashi said, raising his band. It will be difficult if we don't use our best weapons. Knight said, forming black rays in his hand. Zabuza giggled and said with some mockery. Apparently they are Kakashi of the Sharingan and Knight, the ninja of darkness. I'm sorry, but I came for that old man. Everyone looked at him confused and Knight said. Surround and protect Azuna. They don't interfere, now it's a team effort, Kakashi said seriously. Zabuza looked at them with a smile under his mask, and Kakashi began to raise the band of his eye while saying. Zabuza, first you will fight me. Before everyone, there was a Kakashi with a red eye with 3 black tomes, and Zabuza said with great emotion. Wow, I can finally see the famous Sharingan. What a great honor. Everyone was still confused and Sanji said angrily. Sharingan, but what the hell is that? The other Mugiwaras had the same doubt and Sasuke said with total arrogance. That's the reason why everyone is below me, Sharingan. It is said that some have in their eyes the ability to divine and counteract all types of Jinjutsu, Taijutsu and Ninjutsu. The Sharingan is one of those types of pupils that give you that power. But the Sharingan is more than that. Zabuza looked at him with amusement and said. It's true. That's not all. The scary thing is you can copy any of your opponent's techniques just by seeing them. When he was part of the assassination team of the hidden village of the mist, he carried a small guidebook full of information about ninjas, among whom had a Kakashi appeared. Do you want to know what he said? The man who has copied more than 1,000 techniques from his opponents, the copying ninja, had a Kakashi. Everyone was surprised by this information, and Sakura thought. What's going on? First Luffy with his weird little friends, then the old Hokage and now the sensei. I didn't know Hen Sensei was such a good ninja. Nami thought respectfully. Sasuke looked at Kakashi with anger as he thought. What's going on? The Sharingan is my clan's exclusive Taijutsu, why does he own it? He's not an Uchiha. Let's get to the point, end of the talk. I have to kill the old man, said Zabuza, already tired of so much talk. Everyone froze at his words, but Luffy gave Zoro a message with his eyes that he could understand. This guy is a powerful swordsman. When you see the opportunity, challenge him to a fight. Chapter 9. Battle at the Lake. Everyone looked at Zabuza cautiously, and the bandit ninja looked at them with a fixed gaze when he said, "Kakashi, it seems I have to beat you first." He disappeared from the tree at high speed and fell onto the lake. "There it is," Sakura shouted, pointing at him. "Is it on the water?" Nami asked, surprised. Zabuza made a hand pose for a jutsu, and Sanji asked, "What are you going to do?" Zabuza concentrated his chakra to move the water beneath him and said, "The magic of death." Instantly, Zabuza disappeared from everyone's side and the fog became more intense, causing them to be unable to see anything. "The fog is spreading," Sakura shouted, looking around. "Use the particles in the air and the lake to increase the fog," Nami said cautiously. "He wants to kill me by surprise." Mamachi Zabuza, as a member of the hidden village of the mist, he is famous for silently killing his enemy. He may kill us without realizing it, and I can't use the Sharingan perfectly. "Be careful, guys," Kakashi said, preparing for anything. Everyone was looking everywhere when they heard Zabuza's voice through the fog saying, 8 options. Larynx, spine, lungs, liver, jugular, artery, aorta, kidneys and heart. Which of these points will be my objective?" Hearing those words, one could feel such a dangerous aura around him. Sasuke was shaking when he felt this and thought, "What a dangerous chakra. It's like he's going to kill me with just one blink that could drive anyone crazy." The intensity of the Jown in the feeling of knowing that your life is frozen. "I can't take it anymore, I'd rather die than continue enduring this tension." But he saw how Luffy and his nakamas were calm and fearless. Seeing this, he gritted his teeth in anger and thought, "Damn commoners, how can they be so calm when I, an elite Uchiha, am like this? They are no better than me, I am more superior than them." But I hear Kakashi say, "Sasuke, calm down. I will protect them even if they kill me. I will not allow my nakamas to die." He looked at him with some annoyance, but Luffy smiled and said, "I like the way you think, Kakashi-sensei. This is how I always acted, and I will not allow my nakamas to die either." The Mugiwara smiled at his words, and Sakura smiled for the first time when she heard Luffy. Sasuke glared at him for trying to be better than him, in his opinion, but they heard Zabuza's voice say, "We'll see about that." Out of nowhere, the bandit ninja appeared in the middle of everyone, ready to attack and said, "It's over." However, Knight was faster and pierced him with a black sword in the chest, to everyone's surprise. Kakashi moved quickly to push everyone away from Zabuza to safety. However, another Zabuza appeared ready to attack Knight and Nami shouted, "Sensei, behind you." Knight saw how the Zabuza in front of him turned into water and felt how the one behind him brandished his sword to cut him. But Kakashi pushed him and was pierced by it, causing Nami and Sakura to scream. But the cut Kakashi turned into water, surprising everyone. "The water clone. Impossible, how did you copy it in the middle of this fog?" Zabuza thought when he saw this. But he felt the edge of a kunai on his neck and heard Kakashi's voice saying, "Don't move, it's over." Everyone looked at him with joy for capturing the ninja, but Zabuza began to laugh at what was happening. "Hahaha. What's over? Don't you get it? You won't be able to beat me with your fairground monkey imitations." That was amazing. At that moment where you said that phrase with your genin, you had already copied my water clone jutsu. You made your clone say those words to attract my attention while you, the real one, hid in the fog and watched me. A good plan, but I'm not that easy to beat, he said, appearing behind Kakashi. Zabuza's water clone dissolved and Knight went towards them to push Kakashi down. He sent a kick towards the bandaged ninja, who blocked it with his sword, but Knight swung his sword towards Zabuza's face, who narrowly dodged it. Kakashi took the opportunity to hit him with the kunai, but Zabuza jumped away from them and sent a kick to Kakashi that sent him flying into the lake. The silver jounin was sent flying into the water and fell into it like a sack of potatoes. "Sensei," Luffy shouted worriedly. "Has Hen-sensei been defeated?" Nami thought when she saw this. "I knew it, he is a useless sensei and unworthy of carrying my clan's Sharingan." Sasuke thought hatefully. "He is good with the sword in hand-to-hand combat. This will be interesting." Zoro thought when he saw what was happening. "Kakashi, what happens? You shouldn't have any problems in the water," Knight shouted when she saw the silver-haired man. "What's happening? Water weighs a lot." Kakashi thought as he tried to get out of the water. But Zabuza appeared behind him and said maliciously, "Haha, idiot." At that moment, the two senses realized what was happening and thought, "Water prison jutsu." Knight tried to go help Kakashi, but a water clone of Zabuza stopped him, and everyone watched as the silver-haired man was enclosed in a large water balloon. "Maybe I thought you could escape through the water, but it was a big mistake. Haha, now you are in my special prison, from which you will not be able to leave. No. Things become difficult when you can't move. Kakashi, I'll finish you off later. I'll take care of the rest first." Water clone jutsu, Zabuza said, looking at the silver-haired boy while he maintained the prison. "It's stronger than I thought." Kakashi thought worriedly. Then, a water clone of Zabuza appeared in front of everyone else and said. Wearing bands and acting like real ninjas. But do you know one thing? A true ninja is someone who has survived numerous life or death situations. Basically once you're good enough to be in my book, that's when you can start calling yourself ninjas. You're not ninjas. With that, he disappeared from everyone's sight, and while they searched for him, Sasuke was sent flying by a kick from Zabuza. Sasuke-kun, Sakura shouted worriedly. They're just brats, the original Zabuza said as he kept Kakashi impressed. Guys, take Tazuna and run away. They don't stand a chance against him. As long as he has trapped me in this prison, I won't be able to move, and the water clone may stray too far from the real body. Get out of here, the silver-haired man shouted with authority. However, Kakashi and Zabuza were surprised to see Luffy stand in front of the clone so calmly and say. I'm sorry, Kakashi. But I have a very valuable code that does not allow me to leave any nakama behind. Maybe it's common for ninjas to make the mission a priority and be willing to leave their nakama completely, but I didn't act like that. In our world, we, the Mugiwaras, put ourselves first, and if any nakama is in trouble, one of us comes to his aid. Therefore, you are my nakamas and I will not leave any of you behind. This left the trio of Team 7 in shock. Kakashi looked at Luffy with admiration, Sakura was in tears because of his words, and Sasuke just looked at him, annoyed by his attitude. Zabuza, on the other hand, looked at him mockingly and said. Ah, idiot. However, he was surprised to see how Luffy saw him under the shadow of his hat, giving him a very cool look and telling him. Hey, guy without eyebrows. Zabuza glared at him for the nickname, but decided to let him continue talking. Write this down in your book. The man who will be Hokage and the king of the pirates one day, the captain of the Mugiwaras and the ninja of the hidden village of the Leaf Monkey. D. Luffy. Kakashi and Sakura looked at him in amazement, Sasuke was furious, Zabuza smiled at him with respect, Tazuna no longer saw him as a brat, Knight smiled at his words, and the Mugiwaras were ready and motivated to fight. Zoro, it's your turn. Show this guy without eyebrows what it's like to fight against the future best swordsman in the world, Luffy shouted, retreating with his nakamas. Zoro nodded wildly and walked towards the Zabuza clone as he readied his 3 katanas from him. Let's get wild, guy with no eyebrows, he said, eager to fight. Zabuza looked at the green-haired man with interest and said. 3 swords? I have seen people use 2, but I have never seen that you can use 3. However, they are too arrogant. Do they think they can beat me? Hahaha, you guys will never learn. They're still playing ninjas, huh? When I was young, these hands were already covered in blood. Almost everyone was surprised by those words and Knight said. Demon Zabuza. Wow, it seems like you've heard about it, Zabuza told him in an amused tone. Knight sighed and explained. Long ago, the hidden village of the mist was known as the village of the bloody mist. There they had one last test before becoming ninjas. So you also know about the final test, Zabuza said, looking at him seriously. What proof? Sakura asked, interested. Zabuza laughed at everyone maliciously and said. Fight to the death among the students. Everyone looked at him in shock at that answer and he continued. Friends who trained together and even ate at the same table were forced to fight until one of them died. Friends with whom you helped each other and shared your dreams. That's horrible, Nami said without believing it. 10 years ago, the Mist Hidden Village graduation exam was forced to change. This change arose because the previous year a demon appeared, Kakashi explained from the bubble. Change? What changed? What did that demon do? Sakura asked, scared. Without any remorse, a boy who wasn't even a ninja killed around 100 students, Knight answered seriously. Everyone opened their eyes in shock at that revelation, and Zabuza only said. That was fun. Everyone looked at him in disbelief, but Zoro just laughed at his words and said. Ahahaha, it seems like I'm in front of a real demon. This will seriously be fun. Zabuza smiled excitedly behind his bandages and preparing his swords, he said. I see that you are not a simple swordsman. This will be interesting. Chapter 10. Surprise at the lake. Zoro was looking at Zabuza with a manic smile as he approached with his swords at the ready. Zabuza was also doing the same while he prepared his own. On the other hand, Sasuke was seeing things with rage at seeing how a simple commoner would fight instead of him and shouted. That bastard shouldn't fight. I am an Uchiha and I have the right to fight against him. Everyone looked at him with a drop of sweat and Sakura thought. What are you doing? Why is he bothered to see Luffy and his friends fighting? It is seen that they are very experienced and have fought in many battles. It would be best to leave it in your hands. Besides, I don't see anything wrong with what they do and Sasuke-kun is getting angry just because they are showing that they can fight. I think something is wrong with him. Sasuke Uchiha, stay still and let the experienced ones do their job. You stay protecting the builder, that's what you should do, Knight shouted angrily. No way, I won't let a simple commoner take what is. Sasuke tried to shout. I said to stay silent. If you don't obey, I will tell the Sandaime to take away your ninja title forever for disobedience, Knight shouted furiously. Sasuke growled at those words and decided to stay silent, but internally swearing that he would make them all pay for this. On the other hand, Zoro was already in front of Zabuza and said. Let's make this simple. If I manage to cut your original body, I win, and if you manage to cut me, you win. Zabuza smiled under his mask and said. Made. And in that way, both of them launched against each other to begin the battle. Upon reaching the center, they clashed their swords with great force, causing a wave of air. Then, Zoro moved one of his swords towards Zabuza's head, who only dodged it with agility, and the bandage guy kicked him hard to get him away and swung his sword to cut him in the stomach. However, Zoro only blocked it with one of his swords and pushed him away and then prepared an attack with his 3 swords. Santoryu. Ringoku Onigiri, he shouted, launching himself towards the original. Zabuza looked at him surprised by such power and made his clone of him block it. However, the attack destroyed the clone and continued past until it reached him. Zabuza had no choice but to jump away and let the bubble Kakashi was in break. Damn green-haired guy, Zabuza thought furiously. Then, he lunged at Nami to cut her into 2, and Luffy saw this with terrified eyes. He could see with his advanced observation of Alahaki how she was cut in 2 by Zabuza, and the next thing he knew he found himself in the middle of the 2 parrying the sword with his arm covered in haki. However, he noticed that he saw everything differently, as if he could see hidden things, since he saw Zabuza's body with blue flames, and this disconcerted him. How is it possible that you have those eyes, brat? Zabuza asked, looking at him. Luffy looked at him blankly, but he and Nami walked away from him and stood next to the others. Then, Kakashi looked at him and was shocked by what he saw. Luffy, your eyes, he said, pointing. Luffy looked at him confused, but noticed how Sasuke looked at him with pure hatred and shouted. And how is it possible that you possess a Dijutsu? Luffy looked at him in surprise and looked at Nami to ask. What do my eyes have, Nami? She just pulled out a mirror from her kunai holder and showed him her face. Luffy saw with great surprise how her eyes had turned purple with several rings in each one. He continued looking at his reflection of her with a stunned face, still not believing or understanding what was happening, and then, Kakashi asked. How is it possible that Luffy has a Dijutsu? I know very well who his parents are, and I do ''T remember that any of them will show it. Then, Knight said with a smile. Perhaps because he obtained this on his own account. That is the Rinnegan, and it is the most powerful Dijutsu in the world. Now you have the most powerful eyes, and with this you can protect yours, just as you have done with Nami. Luffy smiled a little upon hearing this, knowing that he had a new power to protect his people. His nakamas were also smiling to see that their captain was getting stronger. Sakura was impressed by what was happening. Kakashi was speechless, knowing that Luffy had a Dijutsu all the time, and Sasuke, well. He looked at Luffy with such great hatred for the simple fact of having what he believes only belongs to his family, and that he could wake up before him. Zabuza smiled at what was happening and said. I got distracted and released the jutsu. Kakashi looked at him with cold eyes and said. Lie, you didn't free him, you were forced to free him. Zabuza looked at him with furious eyes, and then, both of them disappeared to fall into the lake. Upon falling there, both of them began to make signals at an incredible speed and shouted. Suiton. Suituiton no Jutsu water element. Water dragon missile. 2 huge water dragons charged at each other, creating a huge explosion. This shocked everyone in the place, and Sasuke watched this with cold eyes as he thought. So many stamps and in seconds. Plus I copy them all perfectly. Luffy and his crew watched him in amazement, and Luffy had managed to see the seals in slow motion since he still had the Rinnegan. When the water calmed down, everyone saw how Kakashi blocked Zabuza's sword with only his kunai. This is strange, what is happening? Zabuza thought as he walked away from Kakashi. He made a position that Kakashi copied perfectly, and this left him baffled as he thought. By movements he is reading them. Completely, Kakashi concluded, looking at him calmly. Did you read my mind? Zabuza thought in shock. He looked at Kakashi, who was staring at him with his Sharingan, and thought. Curse that. That weird eye is making me angry, right? Kakashi finished without stopping looking at him. Zabuza looked at him with wide eyes and shouted. All you do is copy. You can't beat me, idiot, the two shouted at the same time. Zabuza was already fed up with their little game and began making hand signals at high speed while shouting. Damned with this, I will make you never open your mouth again. But he was frozen in place by what he began to see. That's me, he thought, looking at a reflection of himself next to Kakashi. That is not possible. Is this one of his genjutsus from him? But Kakashi had already finished the hand seals before him and shouted. Suiton. The great judgment water element. Explosion of water. Impossible, Zabuza shouted, not being able to believe what he saw. A huge blast of water was shot at him, sending him straight into some trees and impacting the others. I'm the one doing the jutsu and I haven't been able to finish it, Zabuza thought as he was swept away by the blast. When everything calmed down, Zabuza ended up in a tree with several kunai on his body and heard Kakashi's voice next to him saying. Was over. Zabuza looked at him with surprised eyes and asked. How can you see the future? Kakashi looked at him with icy eyes and said. Of course, and you're going to die. However, everyone was surprised to see how two senbons stuck themselves in Zabuza's neck and a boy with a mask appeared in a tree to tell them. You're right. He is dead. Everyone looked at him with clear surprise at what he did and Knight appeared next to Zabuza to check his vital signs. He really is dead. I thought with some doubts. The boy looked at him through his mask and said. Thank you so much. He had been looking for a long time for the opportunity to kill Zabuza. Kakashi looked at him seriously and said. The mask, you are a ninja hunter of the hidden mist. The boy laughed a little and said. Admirable, you are correct. Ninja hunter? Sakura asked without understanding. Yeah. My duty is to hunt down the renegade ninjas. I am a member of the hidden mist hunting team, the boy answered simply. Knight looked at him with analytical eyes and thought. Given his voice and his height, he should not be much older than Sasuke and he's already a ninja hunter, he's not a normal boy. The boy appeared next to Zabuza and taking him on his shoulder, he looked at everyone to say. Your battle has already ended, now I must dispose of this body. Since it seems to be a body with several secrets. Bye-bye. He made a sign with his hand and Knight tried to go after him while shouting. Wait. But he was already gone with Zabuza's body leaving everyone in silence. Kakashi lowered the band over his eye and said. Now, we must take Tazuna-san back home. Come on. Ha ha ha, thank you so many guys, let's go home and relax for a while, Tazun said with a big smile. But everyone saw Kakashi suddenly fell to the ground and this worried most of them. Dikin-sensei, what's wrong with you? Nami shouted worriedly. What's wrong with him? Sakura shouted, also worried. Knight just took him on his shoulder and said. Don't worry. He has exhausted his chakra by using the Sharingan too much. It's normal for someone who has the eye and isn't an Uchiha. Luffy approached him and pointing to his eye, asked. Knight-sensei. How do I get my old eyes back? Can I remove the Rinnegan or will they be here forever? Knight smiled and said. Well, I think you just have to channel chakra into your eyes and they will deactivate. Try it. Luffy nodded and concentrated on channeling chakra into his eyes. Everyone watched as his eyes returned to their usual silver tones and Luffy smiled as he said. It worked, it's nice to see everything normal again. I'm still not used to seeing everything differently. Everyone smiled at his words, but Sasuke grabbed him by the neck and yelled. Amdo, I demand that you remove those eyes right now and give them to me, you don't deserve those eyes. However, Zoro and Sanji took him away from Luffy, already fed up with his attitude, and threw him into a tree in anger. Knight sighed at what was happening and said to Sasuke. I'm sorry, Sasuke. But you can't demand that Luffy remove his eyes from him. It is something that belongs to him by right and therefore, he can remain with them. I warn you, if you continue with these actions, I will be forced to take matters into my own hands. You can't put yourself above your superiors or attack your teammates just because you're an Uchiha. If I see you act like this one more time, I have every right to teach you a lesson. Sasuke was coughing from the blow the two Mugiwaras gave him and looked at Knight with furious eyes, but he decided to do nothing for the moment. Knight looked at the rest and said. We are going to Tazuna's house to rest and plan our next move. And just like that, everyone started walking with a crew excited about an interesting mission, a pink-haired girl thoughtful about what she had seen, and a furious Uchiha as he thought about how to make everyone pay for believing they were superior to him. Chapter 11. Heroes don't exist, but Luffy does. At Tazuna's house. Are you okay, sensei? Asked a 29-year-old woman named Tsunami. Everyone was in one of the rooms of the house with a bedridden Kakashi and a Sanji looking at Tsunami with hearts in his eyes. Yes, I just won't be able to move for a week or so, the silver-haired man responded lazily. After using the Sharingan like that, it's lucky it's only a week, Knight said with a frown. The Sharingan is incredible, but Sakura said looking at him with a drop of sweat. If the body is subjected to so much stress, I think you shouldn't use it. Chopper said, checking his mental state of him. Well, this time we defeated that strong ninja. We should be safe for a while, Tazuna said with a smile. You didn't do anything except be the target, Nami yelled angrily. Anyway, who was that masked boy? Robin asked curiously. That is the mask used by the special team of ninja hunters of the Hidden Mist. They are also known as body eliminators. Your job is to completely dispose of a body so as not to leave any traces. The body of a ninja contains many secrets of a village's techniques. Information about different kinds of chakra, herbs and other things that reveal things about the villages. For example, if Kakashi died, the secrets of the Sharingan could be revealed. If they are not careful, there is a danger that the enemy could steal their jutsus. Knight explains seriously. A ninja's body can reveal important information. Then, by murdering and disposing of the corpses of the renegade ninjas, the hunter ninjas prevent that information from being stolen. They are the specialists who keep the secrets of their village, Kakashi continued lazily. No sound, no smell, it's the end of a ninja, Knight concluded with a cold look. So Zabuza has been torn apart and eliminated. How horrible, Nami said nervously. Meanwhile in the forest. The boy looked at Zabuza's body calmly and taking out a medical ninja toolkit, he took out a pair of scissors to get to work. First I will cut the clothes from the mouth, I will drain a little blood, and he said, bringing the scissors closer to the bandages. But his hand was stopped by Zabuza's hand, who looked at him with his eyes wide open and said. Okay, I'll do it myself. The boy looked at him calmly and just said. Oh, so you've come back to life. Zabuza took off his senbons forcefully and said. Damn, you're too abrupt. You shouldn't try too hard. You could die taking them out like that, the boy said with concern. How long are you going to wear that stupid mask? Zabuza asked as he looked at him seriously. The boy laughed a little at the question and began to take off his mask while saying. It reminds me of old times, plus, it was useful for this performance. When the mask was removed, the face of a beautiful young man with black hair and doll-like features could be seen. He looked at Zabuza with a serene look and said. If I hadn't saved you, they would most likely have killed you. If you were going to put me in momentary death, you shouldn't have used the neck, you should have aimed at a safer point. You are exasperating as always, Zabuza said with annoyance. The boy just smiled mischievously and said. You're right. Zabuza looked at him with a drop of sweat at his carelessness, and the boy continued. I just didn't want to hurt your precious body. And the neck doesn't have many muscles. It's easier to aim at the right spot there. You won't be able to move much for a week or so. But you will be able to move very soon. Zabuza looked at him with serious eyes and said. You are so pure and smart. That's what I like about you. The boy just laughed playfully and said. That's because I'm just a child. Look, the fog has cleared. Next time will you be okay? Zabuza just looked at him fiercely and said. Next time I will defeat the Sharingan and that green-haired man. Back at Tazuna's house. Kakashi had suddenly woken up, scaring Luffy, Sakura and Nami, who were very close to him. That scared me, Luffy whispered, breathing. Curse a little more and our plan to find out what's under her mask she works. Nami whispered, frustrated. This close, we were this close to seeing her face, Sakura whispered angrily. Knight laughed at the special mission of those three, but she approached Kakashi and said. Kakashi, I suppose you know that body disposal teams usually dispose of the body of the person they kill where they find them, right? Kakashi opened his eyes at her words, and Nami asked. What do you mean, sensei? Don't you see it? What did the masked boy do with Zabuza's body? Knight asked, looking at everyone. He took the body, Sanji said seriously. Yeah. If he needed proof of his work, he could have taken just the head. And the weapon he used to kill Zabuza, Knight said with very serious eyes. Sasuke froze when he remembered what he had used and said. It just can't be. Aha, exactly, Kakashi said with cold eyes. What are they saying? Tazuna asked, somewhat scared. Knight made eyes full of pure seriousness and said. Surely Zabuza is alive. Almost everyone was surprised by this information, and Luffy shouted. Are you serious? You yourself verified that he was dead. Yes, I did, but that was probably just a momentary death. It is possible to put someone in a momentary death with some senbons and knowing where on the body to put them. With that we can know that his objective was not to kill Zabuza, but to save him. We cannot ignore that possibility. Knight said with fixed eyes. Aren't you thinking too much? Hunter ninjas are supposed to kill renegade ninjas, Tazuna said without believing what he heard. Kakashi stared at him and said. No, with all those suspicions, we will prepare before it is too late. It's a ninja rule. Besides, this Zabuza dead or alive, we have no guarantee that Geto hasn't hired an even stronger ninja, Knight said looking at everyone. He could see Luffy and most of his nakamas smiling defiantly and thought with a smile. I figured you'd be glad Zabuza is alive. But Sakura asked him with fear. Sensei, what do you mean by preparing before it's too late? Kakashi-sensei can barely move. Knight started laughing at what he said, which disconcerted the pink-haired girl and Sasuke, and he said. Eyes, you will have to train. These words caused Sakura to look at him with wide eyes and say. Train? Sensei, what is a little training going to do for us? Our enemy is a ninja who caused problems even against the Sharingan. Are you trying to kill us? Inner Sakura shouted angrily. Nami just patted her head at her words and said. Sensei, we are willing to take training to become stronger. When do we start? Sakura looked at her with her mouth open and shouted. Are you even listening to yourself? That ninja can kill us all with ease. We are women and we will not be able to fight such a powerful man. Nami looked at her with serious eyes and said. You're wrong. I have faced a woman who is much stronger than him. I have even faced many strong men and defeated them. The worst mistake that men who confront me make is believing that I am a weak woman and they pay dearly for it. I am not afraid of a man who is clearly weaker than what I have defeated, and you should stop acting so weak. If you are a kunoichi, you should act like one. I know a girl who is a much braver kunoichi than you. This left Sakura looking at Nami with wide eyes and Knight said. She is right. They must train if they want to be stronger, and girls like your Sakura can be very strong. But obviously this is just training until Kakashi gets better, since they won't be able to defeat him without us. But sensei, if Zabuza is alive he can attack at any moment. So, are you sure we should train? Sakura asked, still afraid. About that, a person put to momentary death should take a while for their body to return to normal, Kakashi said thoughtfully. Luffy smiled at what he heard and with a big smile, he said. Then, we'll train and then we'll kick that bandages guy's ass. But then a voice said. That won't be possible. Everyone turned to see a little boy looking at everyone with an angry look. Oh, Inari. Where were you? Tazuna said when he saw him. Welcome, grandfather, Inari said running towards him. Inari, say hello to these people. They are the ninjas who protected your grandfather, Tsunami said with authority. The boy just looked at them with an angry face, which made Luffy a little upset and Nami with a sad face, since she could recognize the pain in his eyes. Then, the boy pointed to them and said. Mom, they are going to die. This made Luffy angry and he yelled at him. What have you said? Luffy, don't be angry with the poor boy, Nami begged, trying to calm him down. There is no way they can beat Gato, the boy said, looking at him with cold eyes. At that moment, Luffy looked at him with serious eyes, as he could remember how Nami had looked at him with those same eyes when he tried to help her with her problem with Arlong. He looked down and said. I understand. You must have lost someone very special to you because of that cat guy. But you should know one thing. I can kick that idiot's ass and free you from your pain. I give you my word that I will do so, and I will never go back on my word, Dadabeo. Nami looked at him with a big smile and hugged him for demonstrating that same conviction that made her fall in love with him. But the boy just looked at him with hatred and said. You think you are a hero, idiot. Heroes do not exist. This activated something in Nami because, even though she was a child, she couldn't tolerate someone rejecting Luffy's help like that. What do you think, kid? Luffy is promising you that he will free your town from that cat guy, and you make fun of him. I should hit you for what you said, she shouted very angrily. But she was held by Luffy, who kissed her on the lips and said. Calm down, Nami. You should understand that because of what happened he should no longer believe in heroes, since you didn't believe that I could against Arlong either. Don't be angry with him. Nami pouted at his words from her and sat next to him somewhat annoyed. Then, Luffy looked at Inari and with a sly smile, said. Very well, you don't believe in heroes and that's fine with me. I'm not a hero, I am Monkey D. Uzumaki Luffy, the future Hokage and king of the pirates. I will free you, not as a hero, but as a ninja and a pirate. Inari just looked at him with eyes full of fury and went to her room. I'm sorry. He's been like that since that incident, Tsunami apologized sadly. Luffy just smiled and said. It doesn't matter. He'll see that freedom still exists. Let's train. Knight smiled and that way the training of the entire Team 7 would begin. Chapter 12. Training. Team 7 was in the forest of the country of waves, watching the two senseis carefully. Okay, now we will start training, Kakashi said seriously. How good, Luffy said with emotion. Kakashi looked at them all lazily and said. Well, before we start I want to talk to you about a shinobi ability. Chakra. Most of them looked at him with some doubts, and Usopp asked. What is chakra? Did they really become ninjas without knowing that? Sakura asked with a drop of sweat. Well, they were brought with their knowledge of their world and they could not learn from it. Even so, they can use chakra since they were brought with that ability. Knight explained with a smile. Kakashi sighed and said. Okay. Sakura, could you explain? Sakura took out a scroll and unrolled it to show a diagram as she said. Listen very well, I will explain it very simply and short. Chakra is the energy a ninja needs to perform a jutsu. That energy has two parts. Body energy, which is in each of the billions of cells, and spiritual energy gained through training and other experiences. These two parts are combined. So by extracting and releasing the chakra, you can use a jutsu. This is done through the process of making a hand seal. Everyone looked at each other in amazement, and Zoro said. It's something similar to Haki in my opinion. Everyone looked at him carefully and Sakura said. It's true. You guys have talked about that strange power that Luffy showed us before. What is Haki? This caught the attention of Kakashi and Sasuke, who was willing to obtain that power no matter what, and Luffy sighed as he said. I will explain to you about Haki, but we will not teach it to you yet, since it is not the time. Haki is your will with which you can have great power, and there are 3 types of Haki. Observation, Armor and Kings. Let's start with the Observation one. The Observation Haki allows you to detect the presence of all things, and with that you can dodge even with your eyes closed and detect where someone is. Incredible, it sounds like the Sharingan but much better, Sakura said impressed. This upset Sasuke when he heard that there was something better than the power of his clan, and he swore to make Sakura pay for such blasphemy. That's right, that is the function of Observation Haki, and thanks to that you can be able to dodge attacks in this way. Now let's go with the armor one, I'll show you, said Luffy, showing his arm. Instantly, his arm turned black and everyone saw this in amazement. It looks like a metal cover, Kakashi said, touching his arm. It feels hard and strange, Sakura said, also touching it. Sasuke watched everything in silence as he planned how to demand the dope to teach him that power. It is the way in which you will become a shield to protect you, and at the same time you can use it to attack and defend yourself from powerful attacks. And the last one is the King's, being the most special of all. Luffy explained seriously. Why? Sakura asked interested. Because this Haki can only be obtained by 1 in a million, and it is with which that chosen one can be someone famous. It is the will of a king used to manifest it to everyone, and with it, all those who have a will weaker than yours will fall fainting. It also works with animals, but they are more likely to obey the will of the king like their master. Luffy responded with a smile. Everyone was speechless at that explanation, and Sasuke said. Ah, surely a commoner like you doesn't own it. That power should only be for an elite Uchiha like me. Luffy looked at him with a frown and said. Sasuke, what you felt in the test when I spoke to you too, was my king's Haki. Was that your king's Haki? Sakura screamed in disbelief. That's how it is. I own it just like Nami and Zoro in my crew, Luffy responded with a smile. Incredible, that time I felt a powerful presence and that I was in front of someone superior, Sakura said in amazement. Sasuke looked at Luffy with hatred because he had a power that made him king instead of him, and he was willing to obtain it at any cost. Well, now you should know that there is an advanced mode of the 3 types of Haki, and I will explain it to you. First, the advanced mode of Observation Haki allows you to see a few seconds into the future, although there are people who obtain another ability apart from that. Luffy explained with a smile. So you can know what your opponent will do in a few seconds with advanced mode? Kakashi asked curiously. That's how it is. The next is the advanced armor Haki, and with it you can hit the inside of your target. With this advanced mode, your defense becomes more resistant and your attack more powerful. Luffy continued seriously. It seems like a very useful method to become stronger. Sakura said interested. Exactly. With the advanced armor mode, you can hit an opponent internally causing internal damage. Finally, the advanced King's Haki allows you to use it as a cover to attack, and with it, you can hit your target without touching it. Luffy continued explaining. How is it possible to hit your opponent without touching him? It's impossible, Sakura said, trying to use logic. Because it is your will that hits him, not you. By covering your hands or your weapon with the coating of the King's Haki, your will hits the enemy for you, causing much more impact only if your will is very powerful. Luffy explained with a smile. The 3 team members were speechless at this information, and Kakashi said. Well, it seems that chakra and Haki share the fact of providing power to the user. That's how it is. Imagine how we would be stronger by using both. Sakura said excitedly. Sasuke just looked at Luffy with hatred and wondered why someone as simple as that dope was more powerful than an elite and noble Uchiha like him. She burned with rage for everything he had and wanted to show him that she was just a nobody compared to him. Therefore, he planned to talk to the council that he adored so much so that they would force him to give them all of his power so that they would finally be in possession of an Uchiha. Yes, the council would help him since they gave him everything he asked for, and thus, he would have the power to kill Itachi and rebuild his clan. Nothing could go wrong when I returned. But anyway, how can we learn from chakra in this forest? Zoro asked with annoyance. Before that, I have seen that you do not use chakra correctly, Kakashi said seriously. Everyone looked at him in amazement and night continued for him. Well, listen. As Sakura said earlier, releasing the chakra means extracting physical and spiritual energy and then mixing it within the body. And depending on the jutsu you use, the type and amount of chakra to release will be different. You still do not use chakra correctly. Even if they are able to release a large amount of chakra, unless they control it properly, the jutsu will be weak or simply not work. And by wasting energy, they won't be able to fight for long. These types of weaknesses will appear. So, what should we do? Nami asked, somewhat confused. Learn how to control it. Through a very simple training, Knight said seriously. Everyone looked at him excitedly and Sakura asked. What are we going to do? Kakashi raised a finger and replied. Tree climbing. Everyone looked at him with a look like, "Are you kidding me?" And they shouted, "Tree climbing?" "Yes," Kakashi said lazily. Everyone looked at him with a bad face and Sasuke said, "How will climbing trees make us stronger? That won't help me become more powerful." Now, listen until the end. This will not be a normal climb. They will climb without using their hands, Knight explained with a smile. This left everyone wide-eyed and Sanji asked, "Base? Watch." Kakashi said making a sign with his hands. He walked towards one of the trees and began to walk through it without falling, surprising everyone. "It's climbing," Luffy said with emotion. "He does it vertically only with his legs," Nami said in wonder. "Do you understand it now? Focus your chakra on the soles of your feet and climb a tree. This is something they can do once they control their chakra well," Knight explained with a smile. "Wait a moment, how is it that learning to climb trees can make us stronger?" Sasuke asked unconvinced. "Here is the main part. Listen carefully. The purpose of this training is first, to teach you how to control the chakra. To release the appropriate amount in the right place. As I said before, it is the most important aspect when using a jutsu. This can be difficult even for a skilled ninja. The amount of chakra needed to climb a tree is small, but it must be exact. And it is said that the sole of the foot is the most difficult area to concentrate chakra. So, basically if they can learn how to control it, they should be able to master any jutsu theoretically," Kakashi explained with complete seriousness. "And the second thing is for them to develop the necessary resistance to control the chakra properly. Depending on the jutsu, properly controlling your chakra can be very difficult. A ninja normally stores his chakra during battle, constantly moving. Those types of situations make controlling chakra much more difficult. That is why, by climbing trees, they will gain the necessary resistance for proper control." Knight continued with a smile. "Well, talking all day isn't going to solve anything. This is something you have to learn with your body," Kakashi said taking out several kunai. He threw them at the feet of everyone in Team 7 and said, "Use these kunai to mark how high you can go. Then, use that mark as a goal and try to surpass it. They won't be good enough to walk the tree the first time. So take a run and try to run up the tree. Understood?" Everyone agreed to make the sign that Kakashi had made and then started running towards the tree. Luffy took a good run and managed to walk along the tree a good way until he was almost halfway up. As he fell to the ground, he stood up and could see the mark he left. "Well, not bad for a good start," he said with a smile. He then watched as Sasuke glared at his mark and upon seeing it, he saw that it was a little lower than Luffy's. "I guess it would be best not to say anything. I thought." He saw how Zoro and Sanji were glaring at each other and could see that their marks were very close, so he deduced that they were arguing about which one was higher. But they heard two female screams that said, "This is very easy." Everyone looked up to see Nami, Robin and Sakura on top of the tree, with a mark next to them and a beautiful smile. "But that's impressive, Nami," Robin Luffy said with a big smile. Nami did the peace pose for him while making her cat face, and Sasuke looked at the three of them with hatred. Nami cared very little about her look, Robin was calm, but Sakura was scared of her. "I guess women are much better at chakra control because of their low reserve. It seems like the Uchiha clan isn't worth much lately," Knight said with a smile. Sasuke looked at him with anger at those words and began to run towards the tree with fury. Kakashi looked at him worried and Knight just sighed as she thought. "Well, Luffy has a huge amount of chakra inside him. But I think his ability to train successfully helps him overcome this. I'm sure he'll be able to get past this soon." Then he looked at the girls and said, "How have you managed to get through this? I recommend you continue climbing at least this day. How about they do it until Luffy manages to climb to the top of the tree?" "But why should we continue if we already achieved it?" Nami asked confused. "Because this will help them increase their chakra reserves and resistance. In addition, they can also get used to walking through the trees," Knight said with a smile. The three looked at each other and agreed to what she said and continued with the training. Knight looked at Luffy with serious eyes and thought, "I know you will achieve this, Luffy. I just hope that the creature inside you can see your big heart and is willing to support you." Meanwhile, inside Luffy. A huge cage could be seen and inside, two red eyes peeked out. "This boy is interesting. I might bring him back one day to see what he's capable of," said a dark voice inside him. Chapter 13. Training continues. In a forest den. Zabuza was in a bed with Haku by his side and suddenly, a small man appears next to two swordsmen who were guarding him. "So even you came back defeated. It seems that the ninjas of the country of mist are quite pathetic. Can't you kill just one man? And yet you call yourself a demon. Don't make me laugh," the short man said with contempt. Zabuza just looked at him with cold eyes, which made the two swordsmen put their hands on their katanas, and Haku watched this cautiously. "An attack," thought the one prepared to intervene. "Wait a second," said the little man, stopping them. He then approached Zabuza with an arrogant smile and said, "Hey, there's no need to be silent. What if?" He extended his hand towards the swordsman, but it was taken by Haku's hand, who looked at him with dark eyes and said in a murderous voice, "Don't touch Zabuza with your dirty hands." Beto looked at him furiously and said, "That." The two swordsmen proceeded to draw their katanas, but Haku moved at impressive speed and was in the middle of the two, with both of their katanas in his hands, pointing at their necks. "Impossible," thought one of them with sweat. "It moved in an instant," thought the other with some fear. Haku looked at them with terrifying eyes and said in a deathly voice, "They shouldn't have done that. Now I'm angry." "The monster," the two swordsmen thought in terror. Beto looked at him with anger and shouted loudly, "Once again, if you fail once more, you will not be welcome here ever again, remember that." With that, he angrily retreated with the two swordsmen, leaving Zabuza and Haku alone. "Haku, you didn't have to," Zabuza said, looking at the boy seriously. Haku looked at him with a smile and said, "You'll see. But it's too early to kill Gato. If we cause trouble here, they will come after us again. We must be patient." Zabuza could only remain silent for a moment, but then he said simply, "Yeah. You're right." Back with Team 7. Luffy was at the top of the tree looking at the sky with a smile, and his other nakamas were also at the top looking at the sky with him. Then, he looked down to see Sasuke trying to climb the tree with anger, but no matter how hard he tried, he only slightly exceeded his mark. Silly. If she does it with anger inside her, this will never happen. She must have a calm mind to be able to move forward. But I think I am to blame for achieving it earlier, thought Luffy with a sigh. But he and his nakamas heard Knight's cry that said, "Well done, now come down, I must talk to all of you." The Mugiwaras acknowledged and came down from the trees to find Knight with a smile and Sasuke looking at them with pure hatred, which none of them cared about. Knight looked at them with pride and said, "Very good. I knew they would achieve this. Now follow me so I can give you a good training." "Hey, why would you train them and not me? I'm an Uchiha, you must train me," Sasuke shouted with fury. Knight just looked at him with cold eyes and said, "I won't do it. I have the power to train whoever I want and no one can tell me anything. You continue with the training that Kakashi gave you and ask him to train you. I will train them, since the reason I am the second sensei of this team is because I asked to be their sensei specifically. Therefore, you cannot demand anything from me because you are only a genin under our tutelage and I am your superior, understand?" Sasuke gritted his teeth at that and just stayed silent. Knight looked at the group of Mugiwaras with a smile and said, "Follow me." Luffy and his nakama followed him through the forest, but Knight knew that Sasuke was not going to stay like that and he would try to find out that they would be trained to at least try later, and he knew he had to act accordingly. When they reached a forest lake, Knight made a few hand seals and slammed his hand on the ground as he said, "Dark seal. Night barrier." Immediately, a kind of barrier formed around the lake and its surroundings, and Knight could feel a certain Uchiha becoming angry by what happened. "What did you do, Knight-sensei?" Luffy asked curiously. "I put up a barrier that prevents anyone outside from seeing and hearing what we do in here. I did it because a certain Uchiha was trying to spy on our training," Knight explained seriously. Damn, when will he stop believing he is better than everyone? I'm already fed up," Nami shouted furiously. Knight laughed a little at that and then took out some strange papers as he said, "I do not doubt it. Well, now they will begin their real training. Do you see these papers? They are chakra papers and are used to know someone's elemental affinity. If you place chakra into them, the paper will act according to your affinity. If it is lightning, it will wrinkle, if it is fire, it will turn into ashes, if it is water, it will get wet, if it is wind, it will be cut, and if it is earth, the paper will crumble. I brought one for each one so they know what affinity they have. Let's start with Jinbei." He handed a paper to the fishman and he put chakra into it. The paper was cut in two and one of the parts got wet. "Well, you seem to have Fuetin and Suitin as your main elements. I'll give you some jutsus of both elements that I possess so you can improve. Now let's go with Brook," Knight said with a smile. The skeleton took the paper and put chakra into it. He happened the same thing with Jinbei, showing that he had Fuetin and Suitin. Knight looked at this with interest, suspecting something. "Well, you have the same main elements as Jinbei, and I'm suspecting that everyone has something more than that, but we'll see about that later. Now let's continue with Chopper," he said. The reindeer took the paper and put chakra into it. The paper crumbled in one part and turned to ashes in another. "It seems that you have Doten and Kaiten as your main ones, not bad. However, you will be trained in a very special ninja art for you. Now let's move on to Nico Robin," Knight said with a big smile. The brunette took the paper and put chakra into it. The paper got wet in one part, turned to ash in another and crumbled in a third. "It seems that you have Kaiten, Suitin and Doten. They are very good and having 3 items is very special. I will teach you special jutsus of those elements. Now let's continue with Usopp." Knight said with some emotion. The big nose took the paper and put chakra into it. The paper was cut into two and one of them got wet while the other crumbled. Knight watched this with interest, suspecting the same thing as with Brook and Jinbei. Well, you have Futon, Suiton and Doton. They are very good elements and they will help you. Now let's continue with Sanji, he said. The cook took the paper and put chakra into it. The paper was cut in two with one half turning to ash and the other becoming wet. Knight suspected the fire had to do with her ability to set his leg on fire, but she suspected there was more to her than that. Well, you have Futon, Katon and Suiton. They are three elements that contradict each other but can work together in an individual way. I have good jutsu for them. Now let's continue with Zoro, he said with emotion. The swordsman took the paper and poured chakra into it. The paper split in two with one half crumpling and the other turning to ash. Knight watched this with interest as those elements could work very well in his katanas if he could imbue them into them, but he suspected he had something else going for them. Very well, you have Futon, Katon and Raton. They are very good elements and I will train you so that you can use them on your katanas. Now let's continue with Nami, he said with more emotion. The orange-haired girl took the paper and placed chakra on it. The paper split into two, with one part getting wet and the other getting wrinkled. Knight watched this with excitement since if she had those items, it was very likely that she has something that could put her at the top. Well, you have Futon, Raton and Suiton. I already imagined the wind and lightning because of your connection with the climate and water seems like a good element for you. I will train you so that you can use them in your own way. Now we're done with you, Luffy. Knight said looking at the black-haired man. Luffy approached and Knight looked at him with eyes full of complete interest. I have suspected something and hoped it was possible. Luffy took the paper and put chakra into it. To everyone's surprise, the paper divided into four parts with one getting wet, the other crumpling, the third turning to ashes, and the fourth falling apart. Everyone saw this with wide eyes, and Knight smiled with excitement as she said. Awesome, you possess the five main elements, maybe your sun god fruit and the Rinnegan have something to do with it. With this, your training will be very interesting. Okay guys, take this. He threw some scrolls to each of them, and they looked at them with interest. Those scrolls contain jutsus of the elements they possess. They are jutsus that can help them in the battle they will have. Take these days to learn them and make sure you get stronger. They will come these days to this place for their training and will also use this lake to learn to walk on water. Well, let's start training, Knight said with great excitement. Yes, Knight sensei, they all said happily. Meanwhile, Sasuke was in the forest with anger for not having been able to spy on the commoners' training and said. Damn them, who do they think they are? I am an Uchiha, I am the elite, I must possess whatever power they are receiving, they will pay for it when we return, I will have the council force them to give me all the power they possess, and that stupid teacher will be punished, he will not be able to withstand the power of the Uchiha, they will know what happens to those who defy us. Meanwhile, Sakura was guarding the builder on the bridge while thinking about what she had experienced with her team. I do not know what to think. With this trip I have been able to see a big difference between what I believed and what I have seen. I always thought that everything should revolve around Sasuke and that Luffy was just a nobody who couldn't be with us. But being with the team, I have been able to see that things are different. Sasuke acts in a way that scares me and Luffy has impressed me with every step we take. What I thought before or what I have seen. She thought conflicted. Izuna looked at her carefully and asked. Thinking about your boyfriend? She looked at him nervously and said. No. She was just meditating on what I've been seeing lately and noticing that everything is very different from what I thought. The old man smiled and said. Well, it's good to realize before it's too late. That helps us mature. Sakura looked at him in amazement and at that moment one of the carpenters appeared to say. Hey, Tazuna, I've been thinking a lot lately and can I stop working on the bridge? Tazuna looked at him in shock and shouted. Why do you say that? This is so sudden, you two. Tazuna, we have been friends for a long time. I want to help you, but if we continue, that Gato guy will notice. And if you are murdered, then what would be the reason? Why don't we stop building the bridge now? Said the carpenter seriously and with some fear. Sakura looked at Tazuna, wondering what he would do and the old man said. I can't do this. This bridge is our bridge. This is the bridge that we began to build together, believing that it would bring resources to our poor country. But we lose our lives, the carpenter shouted, trying to reason with him. It's already noon, let's leave it for now. Jiichi, you don't have to come tomorrow, Tazuna said kindly. The carpenter left sadly and Sakura saw this with some sadness. Chapter 14. Encounter in the forest. Some time later, at Tazuna's house. Luffy and his group had arrived at the house after training the jutsus that Knight had given them and found Sakura in the dining room, along with a Sasuke who looked at them angrily. Oh, I see they've returned from their training. Sit down, I'm preparing a delicious meal for all of you, Tsunami said with a smile. "Allow me to help you, beautiful lady," said Sanji, heading to the kitchen. "Oh, but how kind," Tsunami said with a smile. Just like that, everyone sat down to eat a delicious dinner prepared by Tsunami and Sanji. Kakashi and Sakura watched as Luffy ate like there was no tomorrow and how it seemed so normal to his nakamas. However, they also saw how a certain Uchiha was eating non-stop, as if he wanted to prove that if Luffy could do it, he would do it better. But in the end, he ended up vomiting his food since he didn't have Luffy's metabolism. "If you're going to throw it up, you better stop eating no matter how hard you try, you'll never be able to beat Luffy in a food battle, he has no opponent who can beat him," Nami said proudly. Sasuke looked at her with hatred and Knight sighed while thinking. "Something tells me that when we return there will be problems. I better do that once we arrive to have an advantage." But Sakura looked at a photo on the wall where Inari was with her grandfather and mother, but there was a part cut off and she said. "Inari-kun, I was looking at this photograph during dinner. It looks like someone broke the person in the photo on purpose." This alerted Tsunami and Tazuna, while Inari just lowered his gaze while his shoulders trembled. The others paid attention to this, and Nami asked. "Why is he like this? Did something happen to the person in the photo?" "He's my husband," Tsunami said with a sad voice. "And the man called the city's hero," Tazuna continued seriously. Inari just got up from the table and proceeded to leave the place with an annoyed face. "Inari, where are you going?" Inari, Tsunami shouted, trying to stop him. But he just left, slamming the door furiously, and Tsunami shouted at his father. "Father, I told you not to talk about him in front of Inari." This left everyone confused and Nami asked. "What's wrong with Inari?" "It seems there is some kind of explanation," Knight said calmly. Azuna sighed and proceeded to tell how a man named Kaiza had become Inari's hero and that he became his father since his real father had died before he met him. She explained how Kaiza was loved in the country for always helping everyone with his courage and that Inari idolized him like a hero. However, with the arrival of Geto, Kaiza was sentenced to death in front of everyone because he was the only one who openly opposed his tyranny of him. Since that day, Inari changed like Tsunami and the entire city. Tazuna finished telling with pain. Faced with this story, almost everyone cried because of what they heard, with Nami, Brook, Sakura, Usopp and Chopper being the most moved, Zoro, Sanji, Robin and Jinbei remaining silent in respect of such a brave man, Sasuke caring little about the story and Luffy thinking about Inari's words. "Are you an idiot? Heroes don't exist." He stood up from his seat with determination and began walking towards the outside. "Where are you going, Luffy?" Nami asked worriedly. "If you are thinking about training, take the day off." "I don't think it's wise to do it so late," Knight said with a knowing smile. Luffy just stopped at the door and said with a determined voice. "I'm going to show you the opposite." Everyone looked at him with surprise and he continued. "I'm going to show that even if heroes don't exist, freedom does." Everyone looked at him with a smile and when he left, Nami said. "I know he will be able to provide it to you. After all, he showed me that good pirates exist when I thought all pirates were bad. I have no doubt that Inari-kun will be able to see in Luffy the same thing that he saw in his hero Kaiza." On the 6th morning of training, in the forest. Luffy was resting with his nakamas from training, lying on the grass. Meanwhile, Haku was in the hideout changing to go gather herbs to heal his master. After changing, he headed to the forest while gathering the medicinal herbs that would help him with his task. However, on his way he found Luffy and his nakamas sleeping in the grass and when he looked at Luffy, he was able to remember him from when he saved his master from them. He looked at them all, finding that they were asleep and considered whether he should eliminate them so that they would not be a danger to Zabuza and extended his hand towards Luffy's neck with the intention of killing him. However, he touched his cheek to wake him up as he said. "Hey, you'll catch a cold if you sleep in a place like this." This woke up Luffy and most of them, except for Zoro who was still asleep like the dead, and everyone could see Haku looking at them with a sweet smile. "Oh she is a beautiful lady, she is so beautiful that she lights up my eyes," Sanji said with hard eyes. Luffy looked at him with serene eyes and asked. "Queen ears?" Haku smiled sweetly. Later. "This plant will help you, Haku-san," Chopper said showing a plant. Haku looked at her and said with a smile. "Thanks for helping. Put it in the basket." "Work early, miss," Luffy said kindly. "You too. What were you doing here at this time?" Haku asked curiously. Luffy looked at him with a smile and said. "We were training." Haku saw them with wide eyes at this and then his band on his shoulder and then said. "Could that band be ninjas?" "That's how it is. We are ninjas right now," Nami said with a smile. "Wow, they're amazing," Haku said with amusement. This embarrassed some of the Mugiwaras and then, he asked them curiously. "Why are they training?" "To be stronger," Chopper shouted with excitement. But I see that they are very strong," Haku said, looking at them carefully. "Oh no, we want to get stronger," Usopp said with more emotion. Haku looked at them with some doubts and asked. "Why do they want that?" Luffy looked at him with his usual smile and proudly proclaimed. "To be able to fulfill our dreams by being stronger, we will be able to achieve our dreams and be able to show those who trusted us that we achieved it." "Yeah, we will be strong to achieve our dreams," Nami said with joy. Haku looked at them in amazement at these words and then asked. "Is this for someone else? Or is it for yourselves?" When faced with these questions, everyone made confused faces and Haku laughed amused at what he saw. "What's so funny?" Luffy shouted angrily. Haku looked at him with calm eyes and asked. "Do you have someone precious?" This opened everyone's eyes and Haku remembered how Zabuza had saved him when he was a child and how he had become his tool. He then looked at the Mugiwaras with serious eyes and said. "When a person has something important to protect, that is when they can become stronger. It can be a dream, an object, or someone very special to you. No matter what it is, as long as it is very precious to you, you will become stronger to protect it." At this, everyone became thoughtful as they thought about what was precious to them, and after finding what was precious to him, besides his dream of him, Luffy said with a big smile. "Thank you, you've helped me realize another reason why I should be stronger." Haku smiled at this and proceeded to leave while saying. "You guys will become very strong. Let's meet again somewhere." "Sure, my beautiful lady," Sanji said with hard eyes. However, Haku stopped on the way and said as if it were the most normal thing in the world. "Oh, by the way, I'm a boy." This left Sanji heartbroken and he screamed in pure pain. "Impossible, but you're prettier than Nami-san." Everyone watched with a drop of sweat and at that moment, Zoro woke up while shouting. "Damn perverted cook, you woke me up with your screams." Everyone looked at them with another drop of sweat from the fact that he didn't wake up when Haku was with them, but from Sanji's screams of him. Meanwhile, Sasuke was heading towards them and Haku walked past him as if it were nothing. Sasuke watched him walk away with an annoyed face and then continued on his way to the Mugiwaras to say. "What are they doing?" Everyone looked at him with a frown and Nami said. "Don't care." Sasuke gritted his teeth at that and said. "What was that stupid sensei of yours teaching you? What jutsu did he give them? And why should we tell you?" Sanji asked, annoyed by the Uchiha's attitude of him. "Because I am an Uchiha and I must learn everything, now tell me what he gave them," Sasuke said with his haughty attitude. Everyone rolled their eyes at that and Luffy said. "Sasuke, I recommend that you leave. We have the freedom to learn what we want and not share it with you. That's called freedom and not even an Uchiha like you can take that away from people. Now, if you'll excuse us, Knight Sensei is waiting for us to continue training." And just like that, they all went to the lake to continue training, while Sasuke watched them walk away with hatred in their eyes. The next day, 7th morning of training. The Mugiwaras were in Tsunami's house, happy with what they learned, and Kakashi looked at each other while saying. "My body has returned to normal." "That's good. Tomorrow they will come to finish off the builder," Knight said seriously. Then he looked at the Mugiwaras and said. "Although they are completely ready for battle." Chapter 15. The battle begins. After their last training, the Mugiwaras returned to Tazuna's house with a smile, as they had managed to master the jutsus that Knight had given them. "Well done. From tomorrow, you will take care of Tazuna," Kakashi said with an eye smile. Inari just watched as Luffy smiled carefree and remembered his father Kaiza in the same way and in his execution of him. With tears in her eyes, she yelled at Luffy with all her fury. "Why do they bother to work so hard? No matter how much they train, they are still no match for Gato's men. It doesn't matter how big speeches they make or how hard they work. When one faces the strong, the weakest will end up killed." Everyone looked at him with wide eyes, and Nami remembered how she was of the same opinion, and that was why she had made the mistake of not accepting Luffy's help from her. She looked at him with serious eyes and said. "Whatever you say. Luffy is nothing like you." Inari looked at her with anger and shouted. "I would hate to be like you. They don't know anything about this country, they are busybodies. What the hell do they know about me? I'm different from that straw hat idiot. He's always clowning around and acting so cheerful. He doesn't know how hard life can be." At this, Nami slammed her hands on the table in such a way that everyone was scared. She had her eyes covered by her hair and said coldly. "So it's okay for you to act like a tragedy star and cry all day?" She remembered the death of her mother Ella, the 8 years of hell she spent with that monster, and how she had denied Luffy's help Ella so much until he rescued her without asking for anything in return, only for her to help him fulfill his dream of her. He looked at Inari with cold eyes and said. "You're not the only one who's had a life like that. Only fools reject the help of someone who's willing to free you." Inari looked at her with tears coming out of her eyes, and Luffy decided to take Nami away from her so there would be no more problems. After a while, Knight went to the little boy and sat down next to her to say. "Excuse me," to Nami. She is very loyal to Luffy and her love for him makes her hate people who speak badly of him. Tazuna told us about your father and I think you and her have something in common. After all, she lost her mother in the same way. Inari saw him with open eyes and Knight continued. She was very little when that happened and for 8 years she lived through hell at the hands of that monster. She was just like you, thinking that no one could defeat that being and that her kind were all evil. But then she met Luffy, who was a pirate like the one she snatched from her mother and started traveling with him. The more she got to know him, the more she saw that he was different from the being he hated, but she still refused to ask him for help because she believed that he couldn't defeat him. In the end, Luffy defeated him and from that moment on, she remained close to him out of loyalty. That is why she told you all that since she lived it firsthand. Inari looked at him in amazement and thought about everything Nami told him. She remained silent as he now felt very bad. The next day. Almost everyone was leaving Tazuna's house as Luffy and Nami fell asleep very strangely. Apparently, those two won't wake up anytime soon. She asked me what they were doing, Knight said with an amused smile. Knowing Navigator-san, she must have released all her frustration on Captain-san. Let's let them sleep a little more, they deserve it, Robin also said with amusement. The other Mugiwaras were blushing because of what they were saying and Sanji had a lot of blood coming from his nose. Why is blood coming out of your nose, perverted cook? Zoro asked curiously. Because I got the room next to them and I was able to have the front row to hear such an adventure from both of them, Sanji said with a nervous smile. Everyone opened their eyes at this and Knight said. Alright, we better get going. Yes, everyone said. Meanwhile, in a boat near the bridge. Zabuza and Haku head towards the bridge while Gato's voice could be heard in a walkie-talkie. Is the ambush ready? Hey Zabuza. Do you hear? Are we leaving, Haku? Zabuza asked, not paying attention to Gato's voice. Yes, the boy responded respectfully. Back at Tazuna's house. Ah, we fell asleep, Luffy shouted without believing it. It's my fault all because of what we did last night, Nami shouted upset. They got dressed right away and went out to the living room to find Tsunami with her son Ella and Ari in the living room and Nami asked. Tsunami-san, where is everyone? Oh, they finally woke up. They have already left and said they would let you sleep a little longer, she said with a smile. They left us behind, Luffy shouted angrily. We better go to the bridge, Luffy Nami said seriously. Thus, both of them began to jump through the trees towards the bridge, but on the way, Luffy felt something that worried him. What's wrong, Luffy? Nami asked behind him. Luffy looked in the direction of Tazuna's house and said. We'll have to go back. Tsunami and Inari are in danger. Meanwhile on the bridge. Everyone saw a horrible scene. The carpenters were on the ground, all seriously injured and showing signs of being attacked. What is this? Tazuna shouted when he saw this. He went to one of the carpenters and asked. What happened? The carpenter looked at him with pain and said. A monster. Knight watched this with narrowed eyes and said to Chopper. Take care of healing them somewhere else. Frankie, Brook and Jinbei, take them to an area where he can heal them. The four agreed and proceeded to carry out their orders. Kakashi looked at everything seriously and thought. Could be. Back at Tazuna's house. Two men had appeared at the door of the house with swords at their waists and were smiling evilly. Back on the bridge. Kakashi and Knight felt something in the place and Kakashi shouted. Here they come. Everyone prepared for combat and instantly, the same fog appeared before everyone on the bridge. This is Zoro said looking at the fog. Yeah. It's the Kurigaku no Jutsu, Knight said seriously. Then, they heard a familiar voice through the fog. It's been a while since we saw each other, Kakashi, Knight. I see they're still with those brats haha, he's shaking again poor child. Instantly, several clones of Zabuza appeared before everyone with the intention of attacking. Sasuke gnashed his teeth at being discovered as he trembled and put on an arrogant smile as he said. You're wrong. I'm an Uchiha and I don't tremble out of fear, but out of excitement. At that moment, several Zabuza clones appeared before everyone and Kakashi said. Do it, Sasuke. Sasuke smiled evilly and moved at high speed while eliminating all of Zabuza's clones in the process. Everyone saw this with wide eyes and Knight thought. Perfect, now the Uchiha will become more arrogant because of Kakashi. I'll have to talk to him about training him that way later. When all of Zabuza's clones were eliminated, the original showed up next to his pupil Haku and said with amusement. Oh. He has seen through the water clones. This brat has grown up. It seems that a rival appeared, right, Haku? Indeed, it has appeared, Haku said with the same amused tone. Everyone looked at them attentively and Robin said. It seems that the sensei's prediction was correct. The masked man is Zabuza-san's ally. You should stop hiding behind that mask and show yourself, Sakura shouted angrily. But Sasuke stood in front of everyone and said with his typical Uchiha arrogance. He is mine, I will show him the power of the Uchiha and he will regret ever running into me. This made everyone roll their eyes and Knight said. I don't think you should face it. Although you have trained for these 7 days, I can say that that boy is stronger than you and you will only fail before his skill if you go towards him with ignorance." Sasuke looked at him with hatred for those words, and Kakashi said. Ma, I don't think that will happen. He has been trained by me and I am sure he can handle it." "Go ahead, Sasuke. He demonstrates the result of your training." Sasuke smiled arrogantly at that and Knight looked at Kakashi with an angry expression. But he sighed and he just said. "Well, let him go if he wants. But I warn you, Kakashi. Whatever happens in his battle, you will be responsible along with him and I will report it to the Hokage." "Don't worry, nothing will happen," Kakashi said confidently. Zabuza and Haku had seen everything calmly and Haku said. "An ignorant young man who does not pay attention to his sensei's advice. That will take him to the grave." Sasuke gritted his teeth at this and Zabuza said. "Ignorant how he only lasts 1 day in the real world at the hands of ninjas whose hands are stained with blood. How pathetic." Sasuke couldn't stand it anymore and rushed furiously towards the two, but Haku blocked his path by attacking him with a senbon. They both clashed their weapons in the middle of the bridge and thus, the battle began. Meanwhile, at Tazuna's house. The two men destroyed the door of the house, scaring Tsunami and one of them said. "Are you Tazuna's daughter? I'm sorry, but you're coming with us." Inari was washing her hands in the bathroom when she heard her mother's scream in the living room and went there to see what was happening. When she arrived, she encountered the scene of 2 armed men attacking her mother. "Mom," I shouted in fear. The two looked at him with frowns and Tsunami shouted. "Don't eat fleas. Should we take him too?" One of the men asked with a crooked smile. "We only need 1 hostage," the other said seriously. "Hostage?" Inari thought with fear. Then, should I kill him?" said the first one while taking out his katana with malice. Inari watched this with pure terror, but then they heard Tsunami scream in fury. "Wait, if they touch my son I will bite my tongue and commit suicide. You want a hostage, right?" Inari looked at her with tears and the other man just clicked his tongue as he said. Thank your mother, kid." I wanted to cut something," said the other sadly. "Relax, you've already cut a lot of things. Hurry up and get it," his partner said seriously. Inari knelt down with tears and thought with pain. "Mom, I'm sorry. I am a weak child who cannot protect you. And I don't want to die, I'm afraid. So it's okay for you to act like a tragedy star and cry all day." He opened his eyes as he remembered Nami's words and remembered the following thing she said to him. "You are not the only one who has had a life like this, only fools reject the help of someone who is willing to free you." He remembered his mother's smile of Ella and his father of Ella Kai's words of Ella. "If it is something very precious, even if you lose your life, you must protect it with your 2 hands." She wiped away her tears with determination as she thought. "They are amazing. So special. So strong. Will I be able to become someone that strong too, Dad?" Meanwhile, the 2 men took Tsunami towards Gato's lair. Look at that pretty skin, it makes me want to cut it," said one of them. "Walk quickly," the other ordered the woman. But they heard Inari's shout behind them saying. "Wait." They both looked back to find the boy looking at them with brave eyes and Tsunami shouted. "Inari." "It's that boy," said one of the men. Inari looked at them bravely and shouted. "Stay away from my mother." And he ran towards them with fury while the 2 men only looked at him with mockery. "DSK. Stupid boy," said one of them. "Cut it," said the other, taking out his sword. "Sure," said the first, taking out his own from him. Inari. Tsunami screamed in terror. Inari continued running towards both men with all the courage he had and the 2 lunged at him to cut him off. But the only thing they could cut was a log with Inari's hat and this left them both speechless. "Awarimi no jutsu?" asked one of them without believing it. But they heard 2 new voices behind them saying. "Sorry for being late, Inari," Luffy said with a smile. "But we have a habit of arriving at the last second," Nami said, sticking out her tongue. Inari looked at them with tears and said. "Luffy nai, Nami ni." They both smiled lovingly and said. "Good job, Inari." However, the 2 men looked at them with angry faces and one of them said. "But good. If they are 2 of the loser ninjas that Tazuna hired." Luffy and Nami looked at them with cold eyes and Luffy said to Inari. "Stay here while we take care of this." The boy agreed and then the 2 men attacked each other. At that moment, Nami took some shurikens in her hands, which made them laugh as they said. As if this would work against us." But Nami smiled evilly and said. "Rain. He's got Isu no Jutsu lightning element. Current transfer jutsu." With that, her shurikens became covered in electricity and she threw them at them. They both tried to send them away, but when they touched her katanas, a huge electric current electrocuted them, paralyzing them instantly. At that moment, 2 Luffys launched themselves at them and proceeded to hit them with their hockey-covered fists. Both of them fell to the ground completely knocked out and were tied up with ropes. Inari looked at this with ambrosia and went to them to ask. How did you know that those samurai were coming here? They both looked at him with a smile, and Luffy said. I could sense the presence of the two of them heading towards your house with my observation haki, and then we found several dead animals with sword marks on them, as well as several trees with the same marks. We don't travel for so long with a swordsman without learning to identify such marks, Nami said proudly. Then, he looked at Inari and smiled at him as he said. Congratulations. You have found the true purpose of staying alive despite what happened to you. You are strong. She stroked her hair with maternal affection, and Inari saw her with tears as she said. Good heavens. I decided that I wasn't going to cry anymore, now you're going to laugh and call me a crybaby. Luffy looked at him with a smile and said happily. Of course not. Even the strongest of us can cry on occasion. It's okay to cry if you're happy. Inari looked at him in amazement at those words, and Nami smiled sweetly at seeing how Luffy was an example for the children. Well, if these two are here, that means the bridge is in danger. We must help them, Luffy, she said seriously. Luffy agreed and prepared to head towards the bridge. Nami looked at Inari and with a smile, said. Protect your mother. At least you have her with your grandfather and you must protect them no matter what happens. Inari nodded with a smile, and Nami left to follow Luffy towards the bridge. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.